this is the kind of guy that maybe the casual fan doesn't really know about, they should. And I think they're going to. Because let's put it this way. This is what Jack Caglione is. He is a guy who has the kind of power that Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani have. And there are very, very few guys in baseball who can say that. The guy is so skilled, though, 6'5", 250 pounds, like absolute unit. And even if he does not, get off to like an incredible start, he's going to hit a ball 450, 475 feet, just like that you're going to see and say, oh my God, how does a human being do that?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, that was Jeff Passan on ESPN yesterday talking about Jack Caglione, a man that is going to make his debut for the Kansas City Royals tonight, and he will be doing so, Alex, right here in St. Louis against Andre Pallante. Pallante's an interesting starter for him to go up against because Pallante has reverse splits. He's tougher on lefties than he is against righties. Pallante is also a severe ground ball pitcher. Caglione, his big thing, he's going to hit the ball in the air, and it's going to go a long way whenever he does connect. Alex, I bring this up in part because this is a huge day for Major League Baseball. Caglione is a massive prospect, and he's one of those guys that everybody kind of looks at with a little bit of skepticism because they say to themselves, that's not really going to work at the Major League level, right? That's why he fell last year as far as he did in the draft. He didn't go in the top 5. Everything in his profile suggests that dude's like a potential #1 overall pick. But he's huge. He's got these long levers. There's a chance he just swings and misses too much. He chases everywhere outside of the zone. He's like Alec Burleson with more power, basically, in terms of his approach at the plate. So there are legitimate questions here. But my God, the guy has the potential to be a superstar. And his call-up reminded me a lot of where the Cardinals are at right now. There was a chance Caglione was going to be a Cardinal, Alex. According to reporting from Derek Gould, the Cardinals were okay, comfortable, happy even, with either Caglione or the guy that they ended up acquiring last year in the draft, J.J. Weatherholt. Had Caglione been available and the Royals drafted J.J. Weatherholt, there's a pretty decent chance, it sounds like, that the Cardinals, according to Derek Gould's reporting, would have Jack Caglione in their minor league system right now. That doesn't mean that would be better. That doesn't mean that would be worse. We don't know yet. We'll see 5-7 years from now what that would look like. But they were comfortable in either way. Weatherholt making his way through the system. The debut of Caglione has nothing to do with Weatherholt and should not speed up his process in any possible way. What do you make of the Royals calling him up today, though, and what that says about guys making their way through the minor league system right now?
I mean, one, I think it's great for baseball. This is a guy that should get a lot of people excited because it could be the next star. I mean, this dude's 6'5", 250 pounds. Like, he's got the frame of a star, and you're bringing him up after dominating the minor leagues. But, I mean, what it says for me is that the Kansas City Royals are in a desperate situation to get somebody up at this time because their offense has just been abysmal. And you're talking about a guy who, was in A-ball last year, and now we're at AA, AAA, and already getting to the major leagues. And
what could go wrong?
Yeah, we've seen what could go wrong at times when you try and get a guy up to the majors fast enough.
Walker's got a great work ethic.
That's what I've heard. But let's go back in time of other guys that got to the majors because they were desperate for something.
And Dylan Carlson?
That's where I was going with it.
COVID season?
Could be that one. Could be a lot of others. Wherever you want to go with this
Oviedo.
one. But, no, not Oviedo. But I think it also is in a position to where you look at this and you say, yep, they're in a desperate situation. They need some offense. You bring them up. I know a lot of people aren't probably happy about that right now. But on the flip side of this, you're right. This should not be a litmus test for J.J. Weatherholt to be like, oh, well, he was drafted right after Caglione, so he should be up here at some point this season. I think that tells you where the Cardinals are at right now. They've got the guys that they have been being patient with for the longest time that are playing at the major league level now, and there's not a whole lot of J.J. Weatherholts left for the Cardinals. Like, you've got a couple of other guys that you can get excited for when they get called up. So right now you're in a patient situation rather than the Royals are kind of desperate.
Totally agree with you. And the Cardinals, man, like J.J. Weatherholt's pretty much it. You got a bunch of pitchers, a bunch of catchers, differing levels of excitement for all of them. But you've got a lot on the battery side of things, and then it's like, all right, so what about the other position players? And the answer is, well, hope you enjoy J.J. Weatherholt.
Yeah, Weatherholt, J.C.
Kind of it,
and
man.
That's it.
That's kind of it. There's
some
a
outfielders.
few other guys like Chase Davis. There are players down there, but Just as an example on this, the top 10 prospects in the Cardinal system, according to Kylie McDaniel of ESPN.com. He updated these yesterday. Number 1, J.J. Weatherholt. No surprise there. Number 2, I'm a little surprised by this, honestly. Still got Tink Hintz as his second-rated prospect in the system. Number 3, Quinn Matthews, a pitcher. And then 4, 5, and 6 are 3 different catchers within the Cardinal system.
I think they should trade from an area of depth right now.
Leo Bernal, Jimmy Crooks, and Reinel Rodriguez, who is down in the Palm Beach spot right now. He is tearing the cover off of the baseball. Do not get overly excited. It's going to be a long process with Rodriguez. He's like 18 years old right now.
Look at Caglione.
Michael McGreevy at 7. He's 23. Cooper
enough.
Jerpy at 8, who doesn't have an arm to throw with right now. And then you've got Padilla, who people are excited about. He's like a 18-year-old time on him. And Chase Davis is number 10 overall. Again, pitchers, catchers, Weatherholts. It's pretty much what you have to offer right now, and that's why there is so much emphasis this season placed on the current crop of position players for the Cardinals. These guys have to work, man. And if they don't, the place where those replacements are coming from is either trade or free agency. The cavalry is not coming within your system right now. There is no Jack Caglione that is on the cusp of making it up to the major league level. You could argue maybe Thomas JC. Other than that, though, dude, there is nothing coming your way on the position player side. So
good thing they draft 5th overall this upcoming, July? Is that when the draft is?
We go pitcher.
I'm thinking we go catcher. You can always convert him to another position, right? Like
Sure.
Contreras, Herrera.
They're known as great athletes.
I hate paper straw says on the chat as well. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Guys, this tells me if you're drafting in the top 10, college players should be ready almost immediately. That seems to be the new trend. I don't know about immediately, but definitely quicker than it has been in the past. These college players, and I do wonder if NIL has something to do with this. Guys going to college, staying, maybe being more prepared for the major league level than they have been in the past. I do wonder if we are starting to see guys progress quicker through the minor league system that are coming from the college level.
Yeah, I think you're seeing them get here quicker. I also still think they're rushed, right? I think there's a chance we look back on this Caglione promotion. And again, I get why the Royals are doing it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
They are a Rockies-esque offense, which is not something you want to be a part of in 2025. But I think there is a really good chance we look back on this and we say, boy, they kind of rush him. And I'm not saying that means they broke him. What I'm saying is I think there's a chance that a month from now we go, hey, Caglione's back at Omaha? Oh, damn, that's a shame. I think that has become a major problem in Major League Baseball. Everybody seems to think they have found, and the Cardinals fell victim to this with Walker. Everybody seems to think they found that one talent that can come up and be 20 years old and have success at the big league level, and most guys come up here and fail. Even Mike Trout had a year where it was bad for him when he first got up in September, late in his rookie year with the Los Angeles Angels. Mike freaking Trout. So I think that is where they are. I think these guys are ready quicker, but I think they still need more seasoning in the minor leagues. And I think Caglione's probably going to fall into that spot, and I think it's why the Cardinals are being smart by taking time with a lot of their guys, both on the position player side and on the pitching side as well now, where they're trying to be more patient and use McGreevy as depth pieces.
I should explain why I think that college baseball is preparing these guys probably a little better for the major league level. More players, I do believe, are going to go the college route. Like the top level talent from high school that used to go in the second, third, fourth, fifth round in the Major League Baseball draft, instead of signing, I think many of them are going to college for NIL deals that are available to them at the collegiate level, because those are the top players that could potentially sign with LSU, South Carolina, Texas, whatever, at Texas A&M. They go play for those teams, stay for 3 years. It makes the college game better. You're seeing higher level competition at that level, and that allows for you to be more prepared for the major league level. I think some of that is happening right now in college baseball.
A lot of those top schools have a lot of what major league staffs have.
Totally.
Which is
More.
like colleges, they have the pitching machines now. They've got those Rapsodos, and they've got the batting cages where they can look at all the data that's necessary. These colleges are not just, they're going to get the old eye test from the old hitting coach. No, they've got a lot of stuff, especially in the SEC, except for Missouri. But SEC, they've got a lot of technology to help them like it's a major league staff.
Major league pitchers are going to Vanderbilt to get access to their facilities. Yep. That's happening.
Yeah.
So there are some of these schools. College football is the same way. The NFL teams have worse facilities almost completely in its entirety. The NFL has worse facilities than college football at the Power 5 level. because they don't have to put the money into them. Once you're drafted by a team, you're just there, right? Like, players, for the most part, are not making decisions based on facilities. In college, for the last 20 years, that was what you were making decisions on for the most part, is facilities and coaching staff and success, right? So it is just very different than it used to be. But Caglione is going to make his debut for the Royals tonight against the St. Louis Cardinals. It does give me some Jordan Walker flashbacks. Caglione is a very exciting prospect.
Gives me Dylan Carlson flashbacks.
Gives me Walker because he's never played the outfield, but like for a week.
Carlson was rushed, though, in part because it was COVID.
But it also felt like they were in desperate need of somebody in the outfield that could be an impactful player for them.
I agree, but I think there's the similarities to Walker, though, are like style, presence. Caglione is 6'5", 250.
I'm going more as the anticipation of it, to where fans were like,
Do you think Carlson had the same anticipation as Walker?
I felt like Carlson had a lot of anticipation because of the Albert Pujols pry him through my cold dead hands comments.
But I don't think it was the same. Like, I'm not trying to diminish Carlson's production at the minor league level. He was unbelievably productive, and I think people like underestimate how good he was in Double-A. I don't know that he was as... Do you disagree with this, T-Bone? I don't know that Carlson had the same fanfare, the same excitement surrounding his debut as Jordan Walker did. I don't think he did. I think Walker was at a higher level.
I think it also kind of played into it with Carlson because of the Tavares death, where it was like, oh, we got another young outfielder that maybe could fill that spot for the Cardinals.
Maybe.
Because when he passed,
That was like
2014?
2015.
Yeah, but I mean, that was when Carlson was starting to make his way.
Carlson didn't come up until 2020.
2016 was the minor leagues, though, and then you started to see him grow through that.
But it was 5 years later.
Yeah, I think I would say Walker was the one that I think had, and that's not taken from Carlson's side, because Carlson was there, but like Walker was a freak athlete, right? And that's not taking away from Carlson. Carlson was a good athlete. But, like, you looked at him and you're like, oh, okay, that's a major leaguer at the plate. You look at Walker, you're like, that guy should play football. Like, holy crap, this guy is huge. He's jacked. He's 19 years old, 20 years old, whatever he was, and he got called up. And, like, all the metrics, like, you looked at his stuff. Like, Cardinals would mention, like, his hard hit, his exit velocities, his exit velo. And, like, Carlson just... He was never that guy.
That's
Walker,
the similarity to Caglione. Caglione, you look at it, you're like, whoa, okay, that's different.
That I agree with. The freak athlete, like the way that they look and everything, that I totally
all of
see
this
the
stuff,
comps.
The reasons that Caglione is so exciting if you're a fan, right? It's just like, that guy is huge. He hits the ball incredibly hard. It goes as far as anybody not named Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani. And he runs really well as well for his size. Those are all the similarities to Walker. Like, there's very little as a prospect that is similar between Caglione and Carlson, other than both of them were like top prospects. But otherwise, they don't have a whole lot of similarities as players. Walker, the transition from the infield to the outfield. Caglione was literally transitioned to the outfield 2 weeks ago. And now he's getting the call up to the major league level. I fear that he's not ready for that defensively. I don't know how the bat is going to play at the major league level, but I'll be damned, I'm excited. And I was excited to see Jordan Walker. We all were. We were all thrilled about the idea that we get the chance to watch such a young, unique talent at the major league level. It can be tantalizing. Red Sox fans are going through this right now with Roman Anthony. So much so that there's talk that they might trade Jarren Duran just to open up a spot for Roman Anthony at the major league level. These prospects, man, they make people go crazy. So we'll see what it looks like. Cardinals get the first opportunity to go up against him. Jack Caglione will be in the lineup. That's the expectation, at least tonight, against the St. Louis Cardinals here at Busch Stadium. Andre Pallante on the mound for the Redbirds. Coming up in about 15 minutes, Alex has mentioned this team before in the past as potentially being open for business this offseason via trade. The New York Rangers open for business. Do they have anybody that should be of interest for the St. Louis Blues? We'll get into that coming up in 15 minutes. But next, has the division suddenly forced the Cardinals into a higher threshold for postseason contention? We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Swing and a miss. Hampson out on strikes. And the Crew continues to cruise. They've won 8 straight. A 3-2 final in Cincinnati.
Well, this is annoying. This was supposed to be a division that was easily winnable, and instead, the Cubs have 37 wins on the season, which, don't look now, that's more than the LA Dodgers. The Brewers have now won 8 consecutive games. They are up to 33-28 on the season, and the Cardinals are sitting at 33-26. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Alex, has this division suddenly forced the Cardinals to reach a higher threshold than we were expecting? Is it going to be closer to like 95 wins to win the NL Central than it was, 88 to 90 that we thought potentially could do it coming into the season?
I mean, yeah, because I think coming into the season, everyone thought it was the Cubs and then everyone else. And so it was going to be, it's going to be the Cubs division to win. And if you're going to compete with them, you're talking, 86, 87, maybe 88 wins. Now it does feel like 90 is not even going to get it done if you want to win the NL Central. It seems like you're talking 93 plus. And I was joking with you guys in the office. It feels like we always do this to where it's like, the Milwaukee Brewers not going to be that much of a factor this year. And then next thing you know, in the middle of June, we're saying, holy bleep, where did this Milwaukee Brewers team come from? They've got nobody that's doing anything.
Every year, dude. Every year.
So, yeah, I mean, they've won 8 in a row. They're in the plus in terms of run differential. I think the Milwaukee Brewers are now going to make it difficult for other teams to pick up those easy wins that you talk about. So you're going to be discussing 3 teams fighting for that NL Central spot, which also makes the NL difficult to get in because this isn't going to be 88, 87 wins to get a wild card spot. You might be talking 90 plus there too.
Yeah, I can't believe Milwaukee's pushed themselves back into this because, their offense is really 2 guys. It's Christian Yelich and Rhys Hoskins.
Even Contreras isn't hitting the same way this year.
Yeah, and that's been it. And really, those 2 guys that I just mentioned, really, they just started hitting like last month, right? The first month, they weren't very good. They dealt with all kinds of injuries, and now they're going to start getting some pitching reinforcements back. I don't know what to make of the Milwaukee Brewers. I personally don't think they're going to be a playoff team, but I do think they are going to hang around this and make it a pesky. They're going to be that third pesky team that might be the team that ends up deciding who does win the division between the Cubs and the Cardinals.
You know what worries me a little bit about the Brewers from what you just said? There's only 2 guys that are doing it. Yeah, William Contreras, who's not hitting, and Churios, who's not doing much. Like those 2 guys, you'd expect them to get hot at some point and get back to what the expectations were. And they're doing this with only 2 guys that are going to do it. What happens when more guys start to hit?
It's a fair question. I don't know what to make of them, but they are always that team that just finds a way to win, right? They're kind of like the Cleveland Guardians. You look at them and you go, you shouldn't be this good.
Every year.
Right? Every year you're there. I don't get it, but you're there. I agree, though. I think it's probably going to be 93 to 95 wins is what it's going to take to win the NL Central. And then if you get Milwaukee thrown into this mix as whether it be contending for the division or contending for the wild card, I think it's going to be a lot like last year for the wild card, which it required 89 wins. I think it's going to be a minimum of that. It's not like what it was when Arizona got in 2023 with 83 wins, I think it was. 84 wins. I don't think that's going to be the case. Now, I think that's probably more of a one-off in baseball when we look at it in the long term in this new playoff format. But I do think it's going to require 89 wins to get to the playoffs. And that's where I'm fascinated to see what the Cardinals look like here in June, because I don't know if their ceiling is that. I think right now they're probably like an 85-win team, 86-win team.
Talking about the Cardinals.
Yeah, and I think they'll need some reinforcements at the deadline to potentially push themselves to that 89 to 91 threshold.
Feels about right to me. I think 90 is probably what you're going to need.
Yep.
Because the NL, and you mentioned this before the show today, T-Bone, you could make a pretty strong argument 7 of the top 10 teams in baseball are from the National League this year. I mean, you just look at it, whether you're talking about the divisional leaders right now with New York and LA, throw Chicago in there, they're playing up to snuff with those other teams, even if I'm not sure they're the same quality as those other teams. Record-wise, they're right up there. The Phillies are in that conversation. The Padres are in that conversation. And then the next tier of teams, in my opinion at least, like the Cardinals, the Brewers, the Giants, and the Diamondbacks. That's 9 teams I just mentioned. You can't get all of them in. It feels like the Diamondbacks, based on injury, based on performance this year, they're probably going to fall out of that. All right, now you're down to 8, and now you want to go back down to the Giants maybe being outside of that. Okay, you better be right.
And if the Giants stay on this pace, what is it, a 550 win percentage? That puts them at 89 wins.
Yeah, I think you're talking about 90 wins just to get in.
Yeah.
And that's the final wild card spot that we're talking about. So the threshold is just so much higher than what I personally expected it to be coming into this season, both within the division and also, I mean, just frankly, teams around the National League are performing better, and it's different. Like the Braves, I don't know if they're going to hit at any point this year, but if they do, they could enter this mix similar to what happened last year with the Houston Astros, where they got off to the sluggish start, and then eventually it was like, oh, here come the Astros. Yep, they're doing it again. They could be one of these teams as well, so you could throw them into this conversation. It's just a seemingly like never-ending list of teams that are trying to contend in 2025. And ultimately, a lot of what it will be determined by for the Cardinals is, how do you do against this division?
Yeah.
Because we have not seen them play against the Cubs yet. They've got 4 games later this month at home against Chicago, and they have 4 games later this month on the road at Milwaukee. Those 8 games are probably between now and the All-Star break for sure, but maybe even the trade deadline. The 8 most important games on your schedule because of what they mean for where you're at within this division and how they can inform the front office and the fans what this team is actually capable of. Because until you see them really go head-to-head against this division more often, it's hard to know for certain.
Well, and that's been their biggest flaw over the last couple of years. It's why it's been so hard for me to get excited about the Cardinals on top of a couple of other things. But you were always a little brother to the Milwaukee Brewers, and so it was like you'd see them. The only path for you to get into the playoffs was winning that division, and you can't find a way to beat Milwaukee. So it does feel like, I mean, you're talking 4 games against the Cubs. That could essentially put you 7 games back of the Cubs if you're fighting for an NL Central. And then when you take on the Brewers, you could be talking about them leapfrogging you and playing Chase baseball here. Chase hockey. The part that I find fascinating is like, okay, we've been talking a lot about you have to buy if you're this team because you've been effective. Man, what happens if you're just kind of in the same spot that you're in right now, but you're really fighting tough. 6 other teams to get 1 or 2 playoff spots, and the Chicago Cubs have distanced themselves? Like, that's where you have to have those Doug Armstrong tough conversations of like, do we really think we're good, or is it better for us to look and see what's out there on the other side?
If you're in... Like right now, as of today, they would be in the playoffs as the final wild card spot. Right. If you are that, when you get to the end of July, I believe you have to buy. I do not think you can sell from a team that is currently in the playoffs. I think that is a horrible message to send to the locker room and to send to your fans. Like, this is a surprise year. Everybody's enjoying watching this baseball team. Continue to supplement it. If that means you miss out on a couple of prospects for Ryan Helsley, so be it. If it means you miss out on a lottery ticket prospect for one of or both of Fetty and Matz, so be it. Maton, throw him into that mix as well, fine. You should not throw away the potential of getting into the playoffs for the possibility of a few prospects that may never end up meaning anything if you're out of it. Like if the Cardinals are at the deadline where the Brewers are today, they just flip spots. Game and a half back, something like that. That's where, to me, it is the hardest decision possible for Mo. And I truly do not know what you do. I think I would personally buy, but that is more of an aggressive mindset, and I don't know, man. I don't know what the right call is in that spot.
And that's why those series against the Brewers and the Cubs are going to be so impactful in terms of how they view this team, because that's the team you're chasing. And if they beat you in 3 of 4, the Cubs beat you in 3 of 4, if the Brewers take you down in 3 of 4, and then you're going into the month of July looking at it being like, man, what the heck happened? That's going to be hard to make the argument if you're in it or if you're a couple of games out of it, but these teams beat you head to head.
Yeah, and that'll be the first real test of your depth in that part too, right? No more off days when you're going up against those teams, so you're really going to find out what you have depth-wise. And they really, I mean, it feels kind of shocking to say, they haven't really played a whole lot of these teams yet so far that are in this race, right? Now, they did end up winning the season series over Philly, which that is impressive, but it kind of gets wiped away when you realize, oh, they went like 2-5 against the New York Mets. Now, they were in most of those games, but hey, the Mets wiped the floor with you. They swept you in New York. So the Cubs series, the Milwaukee series will be very telling as to where they are. I think they're going to be fine, right? I don't know if they're going to win those 2 series. If you go about 500, I think that would be a success.
Yeah, I think you should be fine. We'll just find out, right? Like they play the games for a reason, and we'll see where they end up being, and that's going to dictate a lot of these decisions. We did get this from the YouTube chat from Hal. BK, you got to sell no matter what. Helsley needs to be traded. It's just business. This is a transition year, and you're not winning the World Series. I think that is everything that is wrong in sports right now. We don't have to get in my soapbox again, but I talked about this today on Twitter with a few people as well. I think that people are, in my view, applying the same methodology, the same viewpoint on this Cardinals team for 2025 that we have for the last decade, and I think this year is different. And what I mean by that is, in previous seasons, I think there was very little hope for the future, and it was all about, like, they're stuck. They're stuck in this treadmill of mediocrity, and they cannot seem to find a way to get off. This year could be the opening of a window, and that's how it feels like the Blues to me. The Blues this year, it was a success to get in and just to get in. Even if they won, like, 0 games in the postseason, success. They did what they came here to do. It was a fun year. They learned a lot about their roster because of what they were able to accomplish. The same can be true for the Cardinals, and then you try to build upon that in 2026. In previous seasons, you had a bunch of veterans, guys that were like potentially hitting free agency, whatnot. This year, the team is younger. You're building around a new core group of players. This did not have the same expectations as previous years. And I think there's this like false choice of you get nothing for Helsley, or you can get the prospects at the deadline. You can get the qualifying offer pick. You don't get nothing if Ryan Helsley leaves. You probably will not get nothing if Eric Fetty leaves. So keep that in mind as well. Just something worth mentioning there. All right, in 15 minutes, we'll get into questions and answers. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. But next, the Rangers are open for business. Is there anybody in New York that you would be interested in if you're in the Blues shoes? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK from my friends over at Victory Men's Health. It is time to unlock your inner champion. The place to do so is with Victory Men's Health, and that means different things for different people. Could mean weight loss goals that you're trying to meet. Maybe you've been feeling some of the symptoms from low testosterone. If you are one of those people, it could be manifesting itself in decreases in energy. You're not getting as much oomph out of your workouts as you once did. You feel like you're adding a little bit of that belly fat that you don't want to be there. You could go get tested today over at Victory Men's Health. Check them out online at victorymenshealth.com. Book that first appointment. It's a super easy process. Put in your name, email, phone number. Tell them BK with the 101 ESPN sent you, and tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion. They also have a special going on right now over at Victory Men's Health. It is an advanced food sensitivity test. They are offering this to all of their clients. It is available to test your response to 180 different foods, and it'll help identify potential sources of inflammation or symptoms for you. So check them out today, Victory Men's Health and victorymenshealth.com.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals back in action tonight as they start a 3-game set with the Kansas City Royals. Michael Lorenzen will be on the mound for KC. Andre Palante will get the start for the Cards. 6:45 will be first pitch. The Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, Elliot Friedman was on with Kuiper and Bourne yesterday, and he said basically, Rangers are open for business, boys. It is time. The Rangers are calling teams, say, hey, keep an eye on him. He's ready for all of your offers. So, Alex, I'm going to put you in the shoes of Doug Armstrong as their hockey operations department calls and says, hey, go ahead and send us your best offers. Let us know who you're interested in. Is there anybody that you'd be calling on in the New York Rangers, to clarify here? Not the Texas Rangers, the New York Rangers. Are you interested in any of their
Josh
players?
Hamilton, if he's available. Well, I can say this because I never really say this. BK swayed me on a player. Yeah. And it's not Chris Kreider, ladies and gentlemen. The nose did not put me in front of the competition.
Would you believe this? I'm out on Chris Kreider. It has nothing to do with him and everything to do with... I just don't think the Blues need another winger.
It's not him,
He's
it's
also
me.
34 years old. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Like, originally I was like, you know what? Alexis Lafreniere has always been a decent player, but he's not a center. You need a center. And looking through this, like Mika Zibanejad, not going to move, wave is no move. I'd be interested, but 8.5, not waving is no move, 32 years old. JT Miller, I think JT Miller and Jordan Kyrou would be Days of Our Lives 2.0 like Vancouver was last year. So I'm looking at it going, no, I don't think there's anybody there. And then BK over here brought up player X.
Vincent Trocheck. I think I'm in.
Is it your
Our
new Ross
text line
Colton?
has been asking us for weeks. Boys, who is this year's version of Ross Colton? Ladies and gentlemen, I think I found him. We got him. His name is Vincent Trocheck, and he is 31 years old. So he doesn't exactly fit into the criteria that we've been talking about. Adding somebody to the core, 27, 28 years old, buy low on them. They come in, they end up serving as that middle six center for you. He's not that. I do think he's a middle six center, though. I think he's a guy that probably fits in as the Blues' third line center, though. He could potentially play up on the second line depending on how you want to work things with the combinations with Braden Shin. He is great on the face-off dot. Over the last 3 seasons, 56, 59, 59%. He is a guy that is a fine defender. He does get opportunities on the penalty kill for the New York Rangers. He is, though, a really solid points producer. Consistently in that, 60 to 70-point range is where he's been for the Rangers. He's played for Carolina as well, so this is not a guy that is foreign to playing on a contender of a team. Plays 20, 21 minutes a night for the Rangers. He's been in big-time situations. He's been in key spots in the playoffs as well as a top 6 player, both for Carolina and for the New York Rangers. I really like the idea of Vincent Trocheck. He's on a deal that is not overly cumbersome in terms of the actual cap value as well. The problem is the years. He has 4 years remaining, but it's $6 million. I think this would be an ideal trade target for the Blues. He has a 15-team no-trade list. Don't know how open he would be to playing in St. Louis. He's from Pittsburgh originally, so there are some
he doesn't want to go there.
Not necessarily Midwest ties, but Pittsburgh has a very similar feel to it as a city to St. Louis. So I don't know that he's necessarily going to be a guy that's I play for New York or I play nowhere. I like it. I think he would be a great fit here in St. Louis. What do you think, Alex?
I like it too. Everybody wants Sam Bennett. Look at Trocheck's numbers compared to Sam Bennett's numbers, and I could argue Trocheck is a little bit better of a player than Sam Bennett. Now,
different.
Yeah, very different, but Bennett has had recent success in the postseason. Trocheck, though, if you look at his last 2 deep playoff runs, one with Carolina, one with New York, he's been one of their top producers. He's a physical centerman who will block shots, play the penalty kill, wins the faceoff. Everything about him does make a lot of sense for the Blues. Now, the other question you might have is, well, yeah, Alex, he's a great player. Brandon, he's a great player. Why would they trade him? Well, because they acquired JT Miller. They've got 3 guys. Now, it's great to have 3 centermen of this ilk, but that's $23 million tied up in your 3 centermen. Now, would they decide to, hey, we need to fill voids in other areas, let's go down this path? I really like this idea, especially because you're talking about a guy who's locked up for the next 4 years at $5.6 million. If you want to go deep sea fishing for guys that's not via trade, you're paying north of $7 million for a centerman that's on the market. And I do think Trocheck is probably slightly better than Braden Shen, but they're probably about as comparable as you can ask. One plays with a lot more of a physical presence, and Trocheck's got that offensive upside. I think this would give you the depth down the middle that you would really want to have going into the next couple of seasons. Plus, it does buy you some time for Dalibor Dvorsky, because Trocheck is a guy that can play the wing if you need him to, but he's a natural centerman.
All right, now let's talk about the realistic possibility of this happening. I don't know. I don't know what
the Rangers want. That's the problem.
Exactly. If the Rangers are trying to really change the look of this team, I'm not sure they have a ton of options to do so. The reason why is because Alexis Lafreniere is making $7.5 million. Who's taking that on? What's the value of a player like that? Does not have no trade protection, so he could be dealt anywhere, and you could just offer him up to the highest bidder. Chris Kreider only makes $6.5 million. He's still a productive player, but there's a lot of injury questions. He's one of the other guys that does not have a full no-trade clause. It's a modified. So, again, maybe if you can find a team, that's a way that you could improve your roster. But other than that, man, it's Keandre Miller is a guy that maybe you move. He's an RFA right now. He does not have no trade protection. Most of their guys have no move clauses. Yeah. Not just no trade, but complete no move. Artemi Panarin, no move. Zibanejad, no move. JT Miller, no move. Adam Fox, no move. William Borgen, no, full no trade clause this offseason. So there just aren't a lot of options. And I've seen a lot of people on the text line say, hey, guys, Trocheck might be their next captain. Maybe. Or they look at this and say, we don't really have another pivot here. Mm-hmm. If we want to change things up and we want to get a significant return, he's probably the guy. It's another point that I don't know about, Alex. I don't know what they're looking for in return. Are they looking for picks? I'd be willing to part with my first-round pick.
Yeah, they don't have one.
Are they looking for prospects? I'd be willing to part with basically any prospect not named Dalibor Dvorsky in this scenario. Do they want roster players? That's where things get tough. Yeah, I don't know who the Blues would offer in that.
And I mean, I always look at teams and say, well, where were they weakest last year and what are they trying to improve? And if you look at their defense, that was their problem last year. And that's just an area that the Blues don't really have much to deal from of substance that the New York Rangers would want. Because a team like the Rangers, if they're making a trade, they're getting rid of a guy who's a second, third line center for them, they're going to want something back in return that makes them better now. If you're the Rangers, the best piece that could get you something that makes you better now is trading away Lafreniere. Because despite the hype, he's 23 years old, and a team would say, well, I'll take a chance on that young kid over a 31-year-old. But I do think Trocheck's probably your next best guess in terms of what you can get in return. That's just the hard part. But to hear Friedman say that they're open for business means Chris Drury probably doesn't really know what direction they're trying to think. It's just, what do you have to offer that makes us better? And typically these things go, the other GM wants the world. The other team says, yeah, I'm not giving you that. And then they start to settle for some realistic returns.
And eventually, if you're in the shoes of Drury, put a bunch of the offers that are up on the board and then go to your team and say, what do we like here?
Yeah.
If we do this, then what do we do with that money? What do we do with the assets that we get in return, right? It's like if you traded Vincent Trocheck. Okay, now we have $5.5 million that's available to us that we did not have previously. What does that allow for us to do? And now we have, let's call it a first-round pick. The Blues trade their first-round pick for Trocheck in this example. Okay, now we have $5.5 million in cap space, and we have a first-round pick as an asset. What could we get with that first-round pick, either if we select with that pick or if we go make that available to trade elsewhere, right? What if we traded Keandre Miller and a first-round pick? What could we get in return for that? We don't have that pick right now. If we got it and we packaged it, what is now available to us? And does that new cap space allow us to acquire something of real significance? Like, could we then go trade for Mitch Marner's rights to sign him? Those are the kinds of things that they cannot currently do that this flexibility could potentially allow for. So I don't know what they decide to do here. I don't know which direction they're going to go. But we've been looking for options on the outside without having all of the available information that certainly Doug Armstrong does. Trocheck, to me, I think would probably be at the top of my list of players that would be available this offseason for the Blues to be able to acquire. He fits basically everything they're looking for outside of the age range, and it's not as though he's 37.
Yeah.
This is a 31-year-old going on his age 32 season.
Yeah, what I'm learning the more and more we discuss this as a group, this is really group therapy when we go through the offseason. I think the option is go to the trade market and don't even touch free agency. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 guys that I would look into free agency wise, but it's got to meet my asking price, which doesn't typically happen for free agents unless they want to play in St. Louis. Man, we've gone through like 6 or 7 different names because I still really like the name Nick Waugh. I still really like the name Matt Barzal from the New York Islanders. I still really like Shane Pinto or Ryan McLeod from Buffalo. I think the way, plus the Blues have, despite the picks, they have weaponry to make trades with. They've got a lot of prospects that aren't going to be on this team moving forward because you just got a ton of wingers. Now, does that help a team that's in contending mode like the New York Rangers? No, it doesn't. But do you feel like you could get one of those guys up faster to where you can ship a roster player out? I think the trade route is going to be your better route to go if you want to go get something that makes you better now.
Tell me if you disagree with this, Alex. I think you probably, if you're in Doug Armstrong's shoes, exhaust all of the trade options first, and then the worst case scenario, so to speak, is free agency.
I agree.
And in that scenario, I think there are options that I would be interested in, and we'll get into some of those coming up in the 12 o'clock hour. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat is available for you as well at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. That is where John, Splashback, Deuce are over there talking things over. We've got Zarkin, Steven as well, Hal in there, NY in there. Check out the YouTube chat at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. Questions and answers coming up next. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. Guys, multiple sources have the Cubs projected to win roughly 100 games this year. Does that all but knock out the possibility of the Cardinals winning the division? Nope, because baseball's weird.
Well, I mean, if the Cubs are getting to 100 wins, I don't think the Cardinals are getting to 100 wins.
I do agree with that. I'm not sure that the Cubs are getting to 100 wins. So while projection models may have them there, projection models, and I'm somebody that trusts the numbers by and large, are wrong all of the time, along with the rest of us, right? Our prognostications are wrong, so are the projection models. The Blues had like a 3% chance to make it to the playoffs.
They're on pace for 101 wins, and they have to maintain a 627 win percentage. So, yeah, I'm with you. I don't see 100 wins in the future for the Cubs. 95, though, I can absolutely see happen.
Yeah, I can see 95. I don't know about the 100, but I also know, like, all it takes is one injury, right? Like, if Pete Crow Armstrong gets hurt, who knows what the Cubs look like? And he's one of those guys, like, his profile is weird. We talk about Jack Caglione in the open, and it's like, oh, boy, this guy, like, has great potential, but he whiffs a lot and he chases a lot. Dude, Pete Crow Armstrong is, like, should be, in my opinion, the favorite for the MVP. Mm-hmm. He's the worst guy when it comes to chase percentage so far this year in baseball. Explain that to me, right? Like, he's got such a weird profile, and he looks like an MVP candidate. So I think there's some regression coming for the Cubbies as well.
He's Javi Baez. That's what he is. He's Javi Baez. And Javi Baez has some really productive seasons, but eventually that kind of a profile is very difficult to bet on a year in, year out basis. It can work. It's just volatile. By the way, Fangraphs has them projected to win 91 games. They do not have anybody projected this season to win 100, so I don't know what those sources specifically are, but the one that I trust most is Fangraphs, and they currently do not have anybody, including the Yankees or the Dodgers, projected to win 100 games, much less the Cubs, who are, again, at 91 in their projections. For those curious, the Cardinals are projected to win 84 games, as are the Brewers, finishing second and third in the division. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 314. Guys, with a new coach, do you think City will start to turn it around this season?
I don't. Not to be super negative, I think this is what happens when you bring in a new coach. You get a little bit of a spark, and then from there you fall back down to who you are. I think it's going to take roster turnover before they can start to consistently change who they are.
Yeah, I lean towards no. They are getting healthier, which does help. Leuven was back in their last win, 2-1. I'm still skeptical that they've got the roster, and they dug such a big hole to get themselves back into that playoff picture. I'll say no. I think it'll look better, but I don't think they will turn this thing completely around.
Agreed. Sweep it. From the 636, how do you guys think that the Oilers can win the Cup this year? What do they have to do?
Give the puck to McDavid and go.
I mean, they have
Draisaitl.
They have to withstand the first couple of games from Florida, because my guess is Florida's going to throw everything they can at them early on in terms of physicality. And then how does Edmonton handle it? Because if Edmonton can overcome that and win one or two games early, then Florida gets to the point where the injuries start to really, you start to feel the injuries a lot more, and the adrenaline starts to dip away, and then Edmonton's top players take over. To me, it's always goaltending, though, and I give Bobrovsky the advantage over Skinner.
Transition game.
I was just about to say, it kind of feels like a classic college basketball game, doesn't it, of two different styles. Who's the one that gets to play their style the best? Because the Oilers are a great transition team, and the Panthers would love to just bring this physical, we're going to get in on the forecheck, we're going to hit everything that moves. Can't hit everything that moves if it moves a little bit faster than you.
I love stylistically the difference in the Stanley Cup final versus the NBA finals. The NBA finals are two teams that want to play similar. They want to get up and move, dude. The Pacers want to play as quickly as humanly possible. You'll see at times the shot clock will be at like 21 and they're taking the shot. They are getting into transition and they are moving down the court as quick as humanly possible. Meanwhile, the Thunder are the best transition defense in the NBA. Like the Thunder also love playing fast. They're more than happy to play that style with you. So it's going to be a very up-tempo style, but they're very different in how they go about it. The Pacers don't play defense and they play a lot of offense. The Thunder are the best defense in the NBA, and they're also excellent offensively. So I do think it's a mismatch, but stylistically it could make for a really fun series. On the Panthers versus the Oilers side of things, Edmonton wants to play that fast style. They are more willing and able to play the grinded out style than they have been in previous iterations, but they're primarily that transition style of offense. Florida is as grinded out as you could possibly be, right? They are a meat grinder of a team. So I think this is personally my favorite style of a series in any sport is when you see such a clash in the way that two teams want to play. And I agree with T-Bone. I think the one that ends up dictating the terms of the series will be the team that ends up winning. I think it's going to be Edmonton this year. I do have them winning in 6 games personally.
I have the Oilers winning in 7. I think this one's going 7 no matter what, and I think Florida wins 7.
I got the Oilers in 6 as well.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and get them in right now. Guys from the 314, would you be interested in Tage Thompson?
No. The cost of acquiring Tage Thompson would hurt your team rather than better your team, and I think this isn't to take anything away from Tage Thompson. I think Tage is thriving on a team that nobody wants to shoot or score the puck, and Tage Thompson does.
Yeah, I don't think I would have interest either. The cost, and I hate to say this, he does not feel like a winning player. And I know he's stuck in Buffalo. Like, it's hard to be that way. Everything that I hear on Tage Thompson doesn't scream like, yeah, that guy will change when he gets to St. Louis, and he'll really become this winning style hockey player that like Ryan O'Reilly was.
I'm out. Personality. I'm out. I'm good. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Last thing here from the 636. Alex, this is for you. I know he was great last year in the AHL, just not sure what his future is. How do you see Alexandrov playing into the Blues' future plans?
He's not a centerman. They used him when he was healthy last year. They used him primarily on the wing. So they took him off of the centerman role. He was used 2 separate years in the centerman role, and they stopped doing it. So I think he's now just a depth AHL piece that if you want to bring him up, you can. I think he's an RFA this year, so I don't even know if the Blues are going to sign him. But no, he's not a center option for you. Frankly, I think Stenberg has surpassed him, Zach Dean has surpassed him, and Kaskamaki has surpassed him. So
and obviously Dvorsky.
And Dvorsky, yeah, absolutely.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. We'll have a Tinder Tuesday coming up here in about 30 minutes on BK
Super
and
swipe
Ferrario.
season.
Looking forward to that. But next, the Cardinals winning puts a damper on other teams' plans at the deadline. We'll give you a comment from one general manager, his reaction to the Cardinals being better than expected, next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. So Jeff Passan put together his preview for the Major League Baseball trade deadline earlier today. Yes, it's early. It's early June, so take all of this with a bit of a grain of salt. However, I did find some of the comments in here to be particularly interesting, especially this one. When asked about the Cardinals, who another current general manager, he said the following about the Cardinals being better than expected. Quote, "It sucks," end quote. According to Jeff Passan, this other general manager in Major League Baseball wanted Ryan Helsley to be at the back end of his bullpen. He wanted the option to grab Steven Matz or Eric Fetty or Miles Mikolas as well. And because the Cardinals are playing tremendous baseball, none of those look like an option at this point. Jeff Passan continues. Considering how little the Cardinals spent over the winter, they should have the financial leeway to make a deadline splash. But in order to do that, President of Baseball Operations John Mozeliak, in his final season in charge, the Cardinals will need to inch closer to the Cubs at the top of the NL Central and push ownership into allowing Mo to make the team even better than it has surprisingly been, end quote. I found this interesting for a number of different reasons. First of all, the Cardinals are clearly putting a damper on a lot of other teams' plans right now. I think teams probably had the Cardinals in the seller category of, all right, if we need pitching, at least we've got this available to us. We can go get our closer over there. Maton is a solid setup option for us. Throw him into the seventh inning. We'll be fine with that. We've got Matt, Fetty, Mikolas, swing options, like potential back end of the rotation starters. Okay, we at least have that we can lean on. And now all of that is wiped away potentially. So I can imagine that would be frustrating if you're another general manager. Beyond that, though, I think it's interesting that yesterday we heard Mo mention on MLB Network, hey, I hope they put us into a position that's difficult, and I think ownership would be open to us adding to this club. Speaking basically to there will not be financial limitations on the Cardinals this year at the deadline. And then now you have this from Jeff Passan, who says, hey, if the Cardinals continue to win, hopefully ownership will allow Mo to make the team better than expected. I find that to be interesting because now this is multiple spots. One from the president of baseball operations, who does not do that kind of thing, speaking publicly about ownership very often, and then a national analyst who's as tied in as anybody in the business saying, hey, let's go ahead and throw in this ownership thing here. That should not be something that holds this team back. If you want to make the argument that the Cardinals at the deadline, they should trade Ryan Helsley because it's the best thing for their future plans and this team's not a contender this year, I disagree with that, but it is a more than valid point. It's just a disagreement on philosophy of the value of this year. If Mo goes into a meeting with DeWitt, and DeWitt said, we're not adding payroll. Like, just flat out, we're not adding payroll. That, to me, is borderline inexcusable in a season like this where you have had so many positives going for you. So that, to me, was my biggest takeaway from this. Alex, did you have something different?
I mean, I kind of am surprised at the response from not surprised, but I think it's a good thing from the response of a general manager that they thought that this was going to be like the stop point for every team in Major League Baseball. Now you're in a different position now if you're the Cardinals because you're not in sell mode. But, man, to look at it that way, there's going to be a lot of teams calling for a lot of players on this team, whether it was Fetty or Matz or Ryan Helsley or Phil Maton. And depending on what the return was going to be, it could have helped you. But, yeah, I think the response is more so what we're hearing Mo say. Like, they have a different viewpoint. And if other general managers around Major League Baseball are looking at the Cardinals now saying, man, they're not going to be the team that we need to go to make our trade so that we can make our team better for the World Series, that tells you where the Cardinals are at right now. It kind of tells you where this team is at in terms of how they view themselves in the NL Central. Can this change by the end of the month? I think so. And especially if there's teams that are already drooling at the fact that they could go after some of these pitchers. If the Cardinals do fall out of it, they're still in a prime position. But, I mean, everybody talking right now is putting the Cardinals in a position to where it looks like they're going to be buyers.
Yeah, I find it. I know that they haven't said it publicly. I think the Cardinals are surprised by where they are, right? They always said, like, oh, well, we'd love to win. But, we also have the out of selling. I think they're surprised by where they are. And I actually love the fact that it sounds like, we'll see, their actions will speak louder than words coming from another source. But I like the fact that it sounds like ownership might be willing to say, hey, this team, we didn't expect them to be good. We're not sure that they're a World Series team. let's go out and let's make some moves, right? Let's go out and let's see if we maybe can make a splash. I don't know what that would mean for this team. Maybe it's acquiring an arm that's got some control, or maybe it is acquiring a piece that has some term on a contract.
Maybe it's Merrill Kelly.
Sure,
That's
exactly.
a splash.
Yeah, and like that would be a perfect fit for them. A guy that is a pending free agent. He'll cost a little bit, but not too much. But he's a guy that actually helps you, right? It's not just kind of piecing things together to just see if you can maybe go on a little bit of a run and hope you get hot down the stretch. I think ownership, they've always said it, at least when you ask them, like, hey, like, do you expect payroll at some point to get back to where it was at previous levels? And they say, well, we're resetting the books, and, we hope that it'll get there at some point. This, to me, feels like the first sign of potentially them really holding true to that word. Now, I'm not saying they're going to add $40 million in payroll here at the trade deadline, but if they take action and say, hey, we're ready to invest in this team sooner than I think a lot of people were expecting, I think that is a good sign for what the future might hold under the next 5 years under this ownership group.
The interesting part about all this is it feels like there's not a whole lot of teams that are going to be sellers that have the assets worth trading for. And if the Cardinals don't become that and they put themselves into the buyer category, well, now they join the other teams like the Dodgers or the Padres or the Mets or the Phillies that are going to be buyers. And, I mean, look around. To me, it feels like the Diamondbacks are going to become what the Cardinals were supposed to be. That's your one-stop shop for all of the acquisitions.
Somebody will. Somebody in the National League will become that team.
And so the hard part is the Cardinals then have to go into a bidding war with those other teams to acquire that type of player.
Possibly. So we got this text from the 910. Guys, we all know that Mo doesn't make trades at the deadline to better the team. They could be 4 games out, and Mo will still say, don't fix what's not broken. And I think he's talking about 4 games up. I just don't really know what to do with that because 2022 happened. And that is the outlier. He typically is not, Mo, a big buyer at the deadline. Normally, it's a couple of bullpen pieces, maybe a bench bat. Those are the kind of ancillary moves that Mo traditionally does at the deadline. He's not a huge buyer. But that Jordan Montgomery deal was a really big deal, man. He didn't give up a ton in it, which is almost even more of a credit for Mo. He got multiple seasons of Jordan Montgomery, who was a legit number 3 starter in Major League Baseball. Went on to be obviously a key piece at the next deadline for them, where they got significant assets in return and won a World Series with the Rangers. And he gave up Harrison Bader for him. Even Jose Quintana. Dude, I would take the equivalent of this year's Jose Quintana at the deadline in a heartbeat. That'd be a great move for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So he does traditionally go out and get kind of what they need. It may leave you wanting more. It may not be the name recognition guy that you expected, but I'd take this year's version of Jordan Montgomery. I'd take this year's version of Jose Quintana. I'd take this year's version of them finding the next Luis Garcia for their bullpen. He's been pretty good at that stuff.
Yeah, I think to most credit, when they buy, he goes out and he does make a move. To your point, though, maybe it's not the splashiest, but even dating back to his first big deadline, 2011, they don't have that deadline. They don't win the World Series. Just point blank period. Let's go back to, I think it was 2014 or 2013. I think it was 14 because he had another year control. He goes out and he gets John Lackey, and he gives up a asset that was deteriorating in Alan Craig. And I think Joe Kelly was in that deal. And Joe Kelly's been a good arm, but he probably didn't have a role on this team. And you go out and you get a starter that could help the Cardinals for that year in 2014 and in 2015 when they had that great rotation and won 100 games. And then you mentioned the Montgomery and the Quintana moves that he made, and Stratton was a nice piece that they brought into that bullpen. When Mo goes out and buys, he goes out and he fixes their holes. And even that 21 team, he went out, and that was more of fixing the holes. Yeah. Otherwise, the whole boat was going to sink. But to his credit, he went out and he did plug those holes. They needed starters just to give them innings. I don't know if he actually thought they'd go on a run, but they needed innings in a bad way. So what's he do? He goes out and makes small moves and acquiring Lester and acquiring J. Happ, and those worked out great.
He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into Tinder Tuesday. This week, we'll be talking about some of the potential free agent acquisitions the Blues could make this year. We'll see if there are any super swipes by Alex Ferrario. We'll do that coming up in 15 minutes. Jeremy Rutherford joins us next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We are happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by our friend, the Blues insider for The Athletic. He is Jeremy Rutherford joining us here on the show just about 36 hours ahead of the Panthers versus the Oilers Game 1 in the Stanley Cup Final. You'll be able to hear that right here on 101 ESPN. JR, appreciate the time as always, man. How you doing today?
Yeah, I really appreciate the time, guys. Thanks. Doing really well. And I remember looking at that Stanley Cup playoff schedule a couple days ago, thinking they might play, are they on tonight? Are they on tonight? What? They don't play till Wednesday? I don't remember having that kind of break when I was working 24/7 for about 2 months.
The NHL likes to schedule the playoffs, JR. You know this better than anybody, to wrap up right when the draft starts. So then free agency starts. So there's no offseason for you guys.
Yeah, as long as the games don't start at 10 p.m., I'm all for whatever they do.
No, we're finally into the 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock starts for good now.
All right, JR, earlier today, your co-host on the Last Minute Blues podcast, Donnie Fandango, was in with us in the office, and he asked us a question that I wanted to present to you. Does it feel to you like the Panthers and the Oilers are head and shoulders above the rest of the league right now? The second time they've met in the Stanley Cup Final, back-to-back seasons. Panthers have now been to 3 straight. Does it feel as though those teams are above everybody else by a decent margin?
Yeah, for sure. I think I'll qualify it by saying it's going to feel like that when they're getting ready to play Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals tomorrow night, and it's the second straight year. So I think we kind of get caught up in that a little bit. But, I think for sure, look at Florida, what they've been able to do, the roster they've been able to assemble, and how they've been able to build it, even losing in the Stanley Cup and then coming back and win it, and now putting themselves back here again. I mean, that's impossible. It's really hard to play that long into the season, 2-3 years in a row, and still be at your best. And the Florida Panthers are doing that. With Edmonton, I mean, we go back to the coaching change. You can go back to Connor McDavid being out. Is this team going to make the playoffs? You can talk about Draisaitl's injury down the stretch. You can talk about how do they look without Broberg and Holloway. Boy, they'd really be a Stanley Cup contender if they had those guys on their roster. And yet here they are. So with them, I think you kind of chalk it up to the superstars. They just seem like they're able to take you wherever you want to go. And, as we mentioned last week, I think when you get capable goaltending, like has been the big question mark with them, I think it's possible. So, but they're definitely right there at the top, these two programs.
So Edmonton's in kind of a world of their own, JR. Like you mentioned, when you've got McJesus and Draisaitl, you can win games no matter what. But Paul Bissonnette made some noise a couple of days ago or a week ago where he was talking about the state income tax, or the no state income tax being a problem when you looked at the Dallas Stars, when you look at the Florida Panthers. How much of an issue do you feel it is? And do you think NHL is going to take any concerns with it to try and right it?
Yeah, I think it's in the news right now, obviously, because Florida's back and the success that Tampa had a few years ago. And let's not forget about Vegas in 2023. I mean, you guys, I'm sure, have gone over the numbers, but you look, what is it, 5 out of the last 6 Stanley Cup winners, if Florida were to win it this year, have been from those 6 states that don't have the state income tax, Colorado being the lone exception in 2022. So, I think there definitely is a trend there. What I don't kind of buy here is the people who say, well, you weren't complaining about it when these teams are at the bottom of the league. And that's a valid point. But of course, when these teams start to get good and bring in some players, it's going to put them in a position where now they can even add better players. And, they've done that with Matthew Tkachuk in Florida and some other guys. And then once you start winning, it's a destination. So, I suppose, chicken or the egg, you have to get good before you can start bringing players to those states with no state income tax. But certainly I've heard players talk about it, agents talk about it the past couple of years in terms of, if we've got offers on the table and those are one of the teams, that's certainly going to weigh heavily in our decision.
It's also worth noting these places that we're talking about are warm. Like, they're enjoyable places to live. It's like you get the double whammy of, okay, so I can go live in Miami, not pay state income taxes, and then on top of all of that, the cherry on the top is I can be a championship contender for an excellent coach every year. Okay, where's the catch? Yeah. Like, what is the downside to this? And if not that, okay, What about Dallas, where it's warm, no state income taxes, and I play for a contender? Oh, not them? Okay, how about Vegas? Would you prefer that destination for you? So, like, the fact that there are 4 or 5 of these different destinations, all in warm climates, where you do not have the state income taxes, and you're playing for a contender right now, I think that's what makes it unique.
Right, and to our point earlier, does it provide a distinct advantage? I mean, look at Nashville. What have they won recently? And then go to Seattle. Seattle's obviously an expansion team, and they're not good yet. But if they are good in 4, 5, 6 years, they're not that warm climate that you're talking about. But being a no state income tax, that might be a place. But yeah, you got to win first, and that's what those teams are doing. Here's the way I'll put it, and I don't think this is throwing Matthew Tkachuk under the bus. But when I spoke to him after he made the decision to go to the Florida Panthers, I said, "Gosh, so much talk, including myself and other media, about you potentially coming home to St. Louis and playing here. It's great it worked out in Florida. Like, what are your thoughts?" And he said, "Let's just say it worked out perfectly." So I think that kind of tells you, with the warm weather and the nice place that he has down there in southern Florida, and then also the chance to win and add to what they were doing down there, I think you made it an obvious choice for Matthew Tkachuk, and those factors that we talked about helped in that decision.
I also remember when we were talking to him, this is prior to the actual official trade on the air. I think it was me, Jamie, and Alex at the time doing the show. We asked him what his favorite color was, and he said green. So, he's a Dallas Star after he's a Florida Panther.
Damn.
JR, as we're talking about this, I mentioned Dallas as one of those teams that has this advantage. What's going on with them, JR? They're obviously a great team. They made it to the Western Conference Final, and then it ended in disaster, I think, is a fair way to describe what took place there with them pulling Jake Ottinger and everything that's taken place since. There's coach questions right now. They've got a bunch of free agents. Now there's a report that came out over the last 24, 48 hours that they would potentially listen to offers on Jason Robertson because of all of the decisions that they have to make this offseason. What do you make of what could lie ahead for the Dallas Stars?
Yeah, a lot going on there. First of all, I don't know how you pull Jake Ottinger from that game. I don't care what happened against the Edmonton Oilers in the past. You're in that game. You need to win the game. That's not a game where you're sparking your team by pulling a Jake Ottinger. You need him to make saves the rest of that game. And they, kind of crawled back into that game. But, if you have a Jake Ottinger, you give yourself a better chance to win it. So I really second-guess that decision. And I think, you talk to guys in the locker room throughout the year, in the Blues locker room over the years, and sometimes they're scratching their head at what coaches have done, and so that does for sure happen. And I think that's what's happening in Dallas. And obviously, it wasn't just the Ottinger decision; it was stuff throughout the playoffs and probably during the regular season. And the thing is, if you win, all that stuff gets covered up. If they're playing in the Stanley Cup final, yeah, there's guys questioning stuff that Pete DeBoer does. But they're winning, and they have a chance to win the Stanley Cup, and I think it becomes less magnified. But when you lose, then it just really blows up, and I think that's what's happening right now with them. And you look at a potential move of Jason Robertson. They're going to have to do some things to kind of find the right recipe there in Dallas because it wasn't there this year, even though they were the Stanley Cup contenders that they were. So, I could see a couple moves, but Jim Nill, the GM, one of the best in the business. He's won the award the past couple of years and done a great job. So, 1 year left on DeBoer's contract. Does he make a change? I don't know. It depends on how much Jim Nill weighs the voices of those Dallas Stars players in there.
All right, Jay, I've got a question for you following up on this.
Yep.
This will not happen.
I was going to give the same
that
one
on the front.
Robertson to the Blues. Is that what we got here?
Or, you ready?
What do you think?
In this hypothetical scenario, a hockey czar comes in and says, hey, Dallas, St. Louis, you're making a deal. It is going to be Jason Robertson straight up for Jordan Kyrou. For those that aren't familiar, Jason Robertson has 1 year left on his deal at $7.75 million. Then he will be RFA eligible. He would then be able to sign a long-term extension wherever he goes, and that could be for a boatload of money. Could be 10, 12 million bucks potentially, depending on how his next season goes. Who do you think would say no to that offer? Do you think the Blues or the Stars would be more likely to say no in that swap, Jason Robertson for Jordan Kyrou?
I would think the Blues. I like Robertson, but I'm going to say the Blues because, A, you have Kyrou, under contract for a lot longer, and Robertson, even though he didn't produce this year and they wondered where he was at in the playoffs, like he's going to get a bump, especially with the cap going up. So, do you want to pay a guy, 6, 7, 8 years on his next deal for Jason Robertson at probably bigger money than Kairou's making. Like, I'm not opposed to trading Jordan Kyrou, but I think that that scenario you can probably find more or find a better fit, find a better player, find a guy who, you know, you're not coming off a playoff where you're questioning Robertson's production in exchange for a guy like Kyrou.
All right, JR, final one from me, because we've gone back and forth with this one, and it feels like BK, Tanner, and I have all come to the same conclusion. If the Blues are looking to upgrade this offseason, it's going to come via trade versus via free agency. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I have my opinion. What did you guys say? I missed.
We all said trade.
All said trade. So I wouldn't disagree, although I would say that you look at the options, and it just seems like there's plenty more options UFA. But you know, those options could get re-signed by their current teams, or they could just be out of the Blues' price range. But you know, you look at that list of UFAs, and even if you're not looking at the top, like a Bennett, Tavares, if he doesn't go back to Toronto, you know, you're looking at some pretty decent names in Granlund, Nelson. Duchesne might cost more than you want to pay. Pius Suter, but you look at the trade options, and you know, I got a little list in front of me here. Rossi, who's been talked about. There was a story Mike Russo had in the Athletic this week about the contract impasse they're at with Minnesota. But it seems like you talk too little, and you talk about not signing a guy, and then all of a sudden next week he's signed. So, and then you look after him, you got Eric Halla, you got Zaka. I mean, it just doesn't seem like there's the same attraction to some of those guys that could be available via trade. Now, listen, the names that I just gave you, those are guys that have been talked about being traded. Doug Armstrong's always the master at finding guys who nobody's talking about and bringing them in a trade. So, you know, perhaps there's names that we're just not we're thinking about here. Yeah, Trocheck, there's one. So, I mean, if a guy like that's available, okay, go the trade route instead of overpaying these guys for free agency. Yep.
Yeah, we're on the same page there, JR. Appreciate you.
Try not to sneeze into the mic next time.
I'll do my best. Hey, JR, appreciate the time as always, man. Always enjoy catching up with you. Enjoy the game tomorrow night. It's been like 3 weeks since we saw our last hockey game being played. Hopefully we'll talk with you and catch up about this again next week.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks.
Got it. JR joining us as he does each and every Tuesday here on BK and Ferrario. Appreciate his time as always.
Man, we've got the Ferrario 5 is like gone beyond 5 names. I feel
Bursting
like
at the seams.
Yeah, I think we're at a BK buildup now with how many guys we have.
We'll do a full segment of honorable mentions before we get to the Ferrario.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 10 honorable mentions before you get to the actual 5.
We'll just do a T-Bone 10.
How about we just do a Tinder Tuesday to go through some of these options?
Today's Wednesday.
What?
Is it?
Are you being serious?
Is it?
He absolutely thought it was Wednesday.
No, I know it's Tuesday.
Coming up next, Tinder Tuesday on a Tuesday here on BK and Ferrario.
Alex Ferrario with you to tell you about my friends out at Classic Air Care, who have been making people comfortable since 1926, taking care of their HVAC system, whether it's a really old system or you just purchased a new one and you want it to last for as long as possible. That's where Classic Air Care comes into play, because of their knowledgeable technicians that come out and check the unit like they do for me twice a year for my maintenance agreement. Or you also got the incredible customer service that when you're a part of the maintenance agreement, when issues pop up, you get priority scheduling to get someone out from Classic Air Care to take care of your unit. But don't believe me, check out their 5-star rating over on Google Plus. Thousands of positive reviews like this one from Diane. Eric was out within hours of us calling when our AC went out. New to the area, called after a recommendation from our neighbor. They answered every question we had and felt very honest with what they were telling us. We'll be asking for Eric personally for our next cleaning, and you now have made a customer for life. So schedule your maintenance agreement today. Check out their financing options for a new HVAC system over at Classic Air Care and classicaircare.com.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londaw Chevrolet and Johnny Londaw Auto Plex. Cardinals back in action tonight as they start a 3-game set with the Kansas City Royals. Michael Lorenzen will be on the mound for KC. Andre Palante will get the start for St. Louis. 6:45 will be first pitch. The Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londaw Chevrolet and Johnny Londaw Auto Plex. See Milano.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Let's dive into a Tinder Tuesday. If you haven't heard this before on the show, it's a pretty easy game that somehow Alex still screws up every time.
I just don't understand Tinder, man.
Is very simple. If you swipe to the right, that means you like it. If you swipe to the left, that means you don't. Right, like, left, don't.
Yeah, but
very
L,
simple process.
Like L. That's where it gets
L is
confusing.
leave.
Okay.
Leave me alone.
And right is you're right for me.
There we go. See, you just ain't simple explanations.
And then, of course, there's the super swipe.
You won. Because we didn't pay for the premium. It's radio.
It'd be great,
We've
by
got
the
a
way.
limited
Is that a
budget
real
around
thing?
here.
You pay for premium and you can super swipe as many
You get
people as you
extras.
want?
I think you get unlimited if you have a certain package. It's a whole
Why
thing.
wouldn't you
Although,
just...
there's no like cool sound effect like this.
There should be.
There should be.
All right, so we're going to
That
go
I
through.
understand.
Alex, we've talked a ton about Sam Bennett, John Tavares, Brock Nelson. We've talked about those,
Yes,
right?
we have.
We're interested in all of them at the right price. If John Tavares or Brock Nelson want to come here, they're projected right now by a lot of places 3x8, 3x7, somewhere in that range. We're all interested. Varying degrees, but interested nonetheless. Sam Bennett, 7x7. All right, we could talk. 7x10, I am out. Like, I am sprinting the other direction. So we all know where we're at on that. Let's get to some of the lower, like the mid-tier options in the center market, okay?
My market.
Let's start with one Ryan Donato. He is projected right now by some of these places 3 years, $4.5 million per year. He is 29 years old. He's about 6 foot, played for the Blackhawks this past season, had a very productive year for them. Worth noting, he played for a crap team, but scored 30 goals. It was a breakout campaign for him, and you might be buying low. He's not good at faceoffs. He has been a winger for most of his NHL career, but this year spent the entire season as a centerman. Alex, he's a below-average defensive guy, but he's fine. Are you swiping right or left on Ryan Donato at a 3-year deal worth $4.5 million?
Swiping left. Want nothing to do with it. Those 31 goals are a mirage because somebody's got to score for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Right.
And if I'm getting a guy and paying him what the Athletic is projecting, which is 3x4.2, no way in hell do I think he gets that. But maybe. He's a defensive liability, somebody you're not going to want out there. And if I'm adding third-line depth for a center, that's not the guy that I want to pay $4 million to. So swipe it left.
I'm swiping left as well because I'm not buying what he's selling. I agree with you. You look at his numbers, got 31 goals, 62 points. If I just saw that, which I did this morning, I went, ooh, this is interesting. And then I look and I go, oh, walk here? And his career high prior to that was 30 points. Yeah, no thanks. Somebody's got to score in Chicago. You're right. I'm swiping left.
All right, we're all on the same page here. We're all putting a big X next to his name. Ryan Donato, not the man for the St. Louis Blues. Next
Not
one
the
up
good
here,
X.
though, Pius Suter. This is a name we have not discussed much, Alex. He is 29 years old. He put up 45 points this season for the Vancouver Canucks. He was a plus for a team that was not very good. Was also a pretty big plus for them last year. This is a third-line center. He is not very good on the faceoff dot, but he's better than some of the other options out there. Like a 45-ish% guy on the faceoff dot. Has consistently been a second to third line center in his NHL career. He's played for Detroit, Vancouver, and spent a little bit of time with Chicago a few years ago during the COVID season. Alex, he's projected to get a 4-year deal worth $5 million per season. Again, he's going to be 29 years old in this upcoming season. Are you swiping right or left on a name that we have not discussed much? By the way, he's a little guy. He's 5'11".
Little tiny guy.
Are you swiping right or left on Pius Suter?
Until you said 4x5, I was ready to swipe right. But that price, swiping left.
Great defensively, by the way. Great defensively.
Totally fine. But I think what you're doing is you're paying for a career year. And I don't think he continues that. Like he traditionally, and look, 14 goals, 15 goals is pretty good to get from a guy that's a third, fourth line player. But paying him $5 million, that's a middle six player. And I don't know if he's going to live up to that. That is too much money for my blood. So I would be looking elsewhere. So I would be swiping left.
I would swipe right. And like that contract, I do feel a little queasy about it.
That's Chandler Stevenson written all over it.
He screams blue, though. I mean, when I read his profile, Swiss Army knife, good defensively.
Literally Swiss.
Yeah, even better.
He's from Switzerland.
I think when I see him,
You heard it.
And he can move up and down the lineup. I think I didn't need it. I think he could potentially serve as like
killer.
Yeah, I think he could potentially serve as like the younger version of Ivan Barbashev for this team, and I would sign up for that. And look, that contract's not great, but I would rather have him than like Trent Frederick. So I would swipe on this.
Chill.
Yeah, I would much rather. His name also makes it's the same noise when you shoot the puck. Pews! Pews! It's like Pionk from Winnipeg. Pionk!
I kind of like this. It's more money than what I would want to spend, but the cap is going up.
This is Chandler Stevenson written all over it.
4x5 is not Chandler Stevenson. Chandler Stevenson got a 7-year deal.
I totally understand it, but you're overpaying for a guy who had one good year and hoping that he could be something that he's not.
I don't think he did have one good year. I think this could be he's a consistent 14, 15, 15, 14 in terms of the goal production. I expect that I'm getting a 15-goal producer. I do not think he's a 25-goal scorer, but a 15-goal producer, probably around 30 to 40 points. If you put him in the right situation, I think the Blues could be the right situation. And defensively, dude, his numbers are off the charts defensively. Like, legitimately 99th percentile, and that was not a one-off. This is the last 3 seasons has been in the 90th percentile or better. This is playing on multiple different lines with multiple different teams. I think I would sign up for that. Put him as my third-line center next year. It's more years than what I would like for. I would rather have a 3-year deal, but he's 29. I think that could still be an asset at the end of that deal. If I don't have to give him a no-trade clause, I think I would sign up. Swipe right on Pius Suter, who we have not talked a whole lot about. Can I give you a defenseman?
Sure.
Because we got somebody on the YouTube chat that said, this is pointless. Alex doesn't like anybody.
That's not true. There's other names on this list that I do like.
This is a 26-year-old defenseman. He's 6 foot, $190. Plays with a bit of a physical edge to his style, blocks shots like a madman, played 21 minutes a night last year for a pretty quality team, finished with 25 points, was a plus 29 over the last 2 years combined. I am talking about Dante Fabro, former first-round pick, Alex, took a little while to figure it out, so much so that he was waived by the Nashville Predators this past season. Well, that team clearly knows what they're doing. And then went on to play well for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Alex, his projected cost via Daily Faceoff, 4 years, $4.5 million per year. Again, 26 years old, will be 27 next year. He's swiping right or left on Dante Fabro, a right-handed defenseman.
I'd swipe right on this guy. And Grant's actually the one that turned me on to this. When he was on waivers with Nashville last year, I thought I brought him up, but they wouldn't have got to him anyway because Columbus was at the bottom of the standing, so you couldn't have claimed him. But you brought up the concern, which I think is a valid concern. Look, he did all of this by playing with Norris Trophy finalist Zach Werenski. So that's a really good season that you don't have a Zach Werenski on your team. But seeing Fabro when he played with the Nashville Predators, he always had that feistiness in front of his net. He is small, but he plays bigger. He does block shots. He does have a little bit of offensive upside. To me, this is a 26-year-old who does have top 4 defenseman vibes to him, just needs a little bit more of a shot. And for 4 years by 4.5, that's Nick Leddy money. And I think if you can find a way to move on from Nick Leddy, that's an upgrade on your right side.
I want to go real quick. That's my thing. This is an order of operations thing for me. I am more than open to a Dante Fabro. I'm cool with that. You have to remove somebody from the equation that is currently there, either Justin Falk or Nick Leddy. If you don't do that, there is no reason to make this signing. If you go into the offseason and like Falk and Leddy are still there on opening night, I don't know what the role is for Leddy, Falk, and Fabro. Doesn't really make sense to me because Tucker's going to be a part of this thing next year. At least that would be my expectation. So do I like the player? Would I be interested in that cost? Sure. I'm open to all of that. But it requires you to remove somebody that's currently in the equation to be out of the equation. T-Bone?
Yeah, I would swipe right as well. It goes to what you're saying as the caveat there, assuming they're moving somebody out from the defensive core. 4 by 4.5, that's not a bad contract. It's worth taking a shot on a 26-year-old defenseman. I agree you don't have a Zach Wierzynski. You've got Broberg. You've got good defensemen that you compare him with.
Wierzynski?
Isn't it? What is his name?
Wierzynski.
Oh, sorry.
There's no Z.
My bad. But I would swipe right on him. I think he's worth a shot. On a 4-year, 4.5, that's nothing. That's like pennies in this new salary cap era that we're going into.
We spent a decent amount of time talking about Jack Roslovic. We'd all be fine with it. Not super excited. 3 years, $4 million per year is the current projected cost. I'd probably say, like, if that's where they end up, I'd be fine with it. I'm not thrilled by it.
I think I've swayed myself to swipe left on this now. It's just because what they pointed out on the Athletic article, like he was healthy scratched a couple of times in the playoffs for Carolina. He is a very inconsistent player, and he's not great defensively. So he plays physical, but if you're struggling in Carolina, it makes me a little concerned that you'd have success here. The one thing that I do think is good about him is he is versatile. He can do center and play wing, so you can use him for now at center.
That matters for this team.
I don't think it
Need
does.
wingers.
I don't think it does. I think right now, if I can get a guy at minimum of 2 years of center, that gives me runway for Dvorsky. So before I was swipe right on this guy, but 3 by 4 for a guy that's going to be inconsistent, I think I'd rather just stick with Sundqvist.
Let's get to the next one. This guy is 38 years old. He is an old gentleman, getting a little bit long in the tooth. However, he is somebody that has a track record of leadership. He has a track record of points production. You can probably write in pen about 50 points for this player that I'm talking about. And he's been a top 6 player, 58 to 60% on the faceoff dot for like the last 6 years running. Claude Giroux, who we have spent 0 time talking about. Now, I don't think he's leaving. I think he's going to stick with the Ottawa Senators. He's from Ontario. I think he just sticks with them. But if he wants to play for more of a contender, I could see how maybe he convinces himself to go elsewhere. Alex, if he ends up going that direction, would you swipe right or left on a 2-year, $5 million per year deal for a 38-year-old Claude Giroux?
I'd swipe right on this guy. If he's willing, I don't think he is, but hypothetical path, this to me is a guy that's a perfect third-line center for you. And you're going 2 years with him. It's a placeholder for you. It's not the same line as a Brock Nelson or John Tavares because, like, those guys have second-line center upside. But Giroux is great defensively. He's really good offensively, and it's a perfect piece to put in there until Dvorsky's ready. Yeah, I would swipe right on this.
I would swipe right as well.
Wow.
This screams Blues move of a 35, 36, 37-year-old dude.
Is it because we signed Ryan Suter?
Yeah, it is. That's why I like Brent Burns. But
it's a lot more money, though.
Yeah,
sure. I mean, this is different than that move.
But, I mean, your other option, if you were going down that path, is you're paying $6+ million for a Tavares or a Nelson.
I mean, not necessarily. We talked about Jack Roslovic.
No, I'm saying like the older guy that fits into the middle six center vibe. You're paying more money and potentially more years for those guys, and Giroux would be a little bit better.
Yeah, I don't mind this because it's such a short-term deal, and, like, I know he's older. He doesn't look like he's losing much of a step. When you look at his point production, he's still good defensively. I mean, he finished 25th in the Selke voting this year. So, yeah, I think he can make some sense.
We talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, well. If you want to hear some tension in the room, go back and listen to yesterday's podcast.
His defensive numbers have sagged. They've gone down a little bit over the last couple of years. Some of that might be, honestly, just he's in Ottawa. You know, like he's not on the same type of a contender as he was previously, so that can be affected by that. I'd sign up for this. I'd swipe right. I'm fine with Claude Giroux. Not my first option, but if you tell me this is how they end up, I'd be totally cool with it. All right, last couple here. I think I know where the room's going to go on this, but I've got to ask it anyways. He's 27 years old. He has a 40-point year in his past. He had 17 and 18 goals the 2 years prior to this past one when he dealt with a lot of injuries. I'm talking about Trent Frederic. He's not great on the faceoff dot. He's been moved back and forth between the wing and center. I'm not sure he's a center long-term. I'm not, but he has played there. He is physical. He has a grinding style of play. He fits, obviously, with Jim Montgomery. He's playing right now on a Stanley Cup contender out in Edmonton. Alex, are you swiping right or left on a 2-year deal worth $3.5 million per year? That's the projection right now for 27-year-old Trent Frederic.
I'm super swiping on this
6'3",
one.
220.
I'm super swiping. I hit it. I'm super swiping. Typically, it's just to swipe right, but I'm super swiping here because of the salary and the price. Like, I'm getting 2 years at $3.5 million for Trent Frederic. I think he is a third-line center. The numbers this season, he's been hurt for a majority of it. Slash was on a really bad Boston team. Look at when Trent Frederick was at his best. He was coached under Jim Montgomery. I think that's what he is. You're right. I don't think long-term he's a center. I think he's probably a winger, but for the now, you can use him as a third-line center for this team. He's physical. He's got an offensive upside. He's willing to hit everything. I would super swipe this guy because cost control-wise and player type, this screams St. Louis Blue.
I would swipe left.
Really?
He doesn't do it for me.
Suitor, but you're going to swipe left on this guy.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the down year has thrown me off. Well, I mean, the down year of 15 points. He's not good on the faceoff dot, and he brings a physical edge. Okay, I want a guy that's more of a playmaker. And I understand I'm talking about a third-line center. I don't know. I don't think he fits what they're looking for. And I get it, the terms there. And, I wouldn't even crush him if they did the deal. It's fine. He's not my number one target. He's, outside my top 10. I'd swipe left.
Wow. I have said all along, this is my guy that's land here if nothing else. You've got to at least sign somebody Trent Frederick level or better. I don't know if Trent Frederick is long-term going to be a center. That's my concern here. I don't know. But if Jim Montgomery thinks he can be a center, I feel like he'd know better than I would. And I would trust his intuition on a signing like this. So 2 years, that's not a whole lot. $3.5 million, dude, that's what you're paying to Matthew Joseph. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd be fine with them going out and signing Trent Frederick to a Matthew Joseph level contract. Yeah. So I would swipe right. It would not be a super swipe for me, but I'd be totally cool with it.
And I think a third line of a Frederick Neighbors and a Zach Bolduc would just be it would be a pain in the ass for the other team to play against.
All right, last one here, Alex. This is not a center. This is a defenseman.
Swipe left.
Or, yeah, we'll see. He's 6'5". He's 230 pounds. I think that weight might be a little off. Probably closer to 230 to 235-ish at this point in his career. He's 40 years old.
Oh, I already know where I'm going with this one.
He's played the last 3 seasons for a pretty good team in Carolina. The production did fall off a cliff this season, only 30 points, but consistently prior to that 40 to 50-point producer. He's still playing 21 minutes a night. We just saw what a 40-year-old defenseman can do with the St. Louis Blues. I'm talking about Brent Burns. 1 year, $5 million is the projection. Would you swipe right or left on Brent Burns, the 40-year-old man coming over from Carolina?
You used your super swipe.
Damn it! I'm swiping right. And if I paid for the upgrade to get Super Tinder, so give me the Super Swipe 2.0.
No,
I'm getting this guy.
Afford it.
He's 40 years old, and I know a lot of people say you don't need it. Here's why I'm getting him. The dude just puts pucks on net. What's the one thing we complained about in the past about the defense? It's you don't shoot enough. In the last 3 seasons, he has averaged almost 500 shot attempts in 82 games. To me, Brent Burns is another option like Ryan Suter was, to where, you know what, third pair defenseman, I don't think Brent Burns would come here. Frankly, if he's going to come back, it's probably going to stay in Carolina or just retire. But if he would be willing to, this would be the perfect third-line right-handed defenseman to play with Tyler Tucker. Physical, big, puts pucks on net.
T-Bone, I really just did this for Alex, so I don't need your answer on it. Alex and T-Bone on BK Juncture coming up next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Alex, what's going on, man?
I've had the world's worst last 48 hours that you can ask for. It's gone from...
I'm sorry about the plus-minus thing. All right? I'm sorry. I feel like we can set that aside now.
Look, sometimes people have other issues, and I think yesterday was one of those where it was just Sunday carried over to Monday, and it was a brutal one.
And if you're having a bad day...
BK makes it worse.
BK's not the guy
I won't say I was the greatest person to be around last night when I got home. But we went from our daughter having a double ear infection, our youngest, to our oldest having some type of issue with the cleft palate that she had when she was a baby.
Oh, no.
We've got mole problems in our backyard once again. Again, yes. And typically I can find these suckers, but let me tell you, these two are masters at whatever it is.
I'll bring the traps in for you tomorrow.
Those traps just never work for me, man. And I don't know if it's because I put them in the wrong spot
Probably you got to put them in the burrow.
I just stand out there typically. I've gotten like 3 in the past with the shovel, and I wait to see it. But these suckers are deep. But then the one that just was icing on the cake. Sunday, took the tarp off of the pool, above ground pool we had since we moved in. It was there already. I've done a really good job of maintaining it. Took the tarp off. Apparently not. But it's been there for like 15 years, according to my neighbor. See how he just makes it worse?
I know.
Damn. You go from the pool... Tarp coming off.
Second time today. It happened on TMA too.
Did they do it too? The tarp.
They had a guest in that said the exact same thing.
The tarp came off, and the liner was hanging off of the pool. So the liner, I'm like, okay, well, I figured we were going to have to do new lining on the above ground pool. But then when I pulled it back more, there was just rust all over behind it. And so I'm looking at this like, okay, well, I've seen stuff that you can put some type of sealant over the rust and it can cover it and be fine. But then it was like I was touching it and just holes are starting to show up. So I think we're bleeped with the pool. Like I think it's done for. But the icing on top of the icing, I can't find anybody who's willing to work on above ground pools.
So if you need... Or if you know
if you don't
somebody
need, I need.
That can help Alex out, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. He would like to hire a professional.
That's what he just said. Hire a professional. Alex, I'm trying to.
That's the hope.
Everybody I call is like, no, we don't do above ground pools. Cool. So we're at the point now where I think I'm just going to have to tear it down.
How do the kids feel about that?
Not great. Because this, now like my Adelaide, she's at the point where like now she's getting comfortable jumping into the water. And so we were in Branson last weekend and she was obsessed with it. And so now all she asks is, Daddy's when the pool going to be open? Meanwhile, I'm draining the thing in our backyard. So it's going to be a fun conversation.
She's going to react to you telling her this about the same way that Luca reacted to me leaving daycare for the first time yesterday? Pretty much similar conversation.
I don't know if she's going to cry. I think she's just going to be mad at me.
Yeah.
Which will be fun.
Yeah.
But... is what it is.
We're in week 1 of daycare, and that's been a delight.
It's not
you did
fun.
Great after I left, but boy, was that not an enjoyable experience for the first time. About the same. Oh. But at least today I knew it was coming. I expected that it would happen yesterday. You never know until it happens. And today we went into it, cried for about 5 minutes. They said about 10 minutes later he was totally fine playing with the other kids. So we're good. With Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, I thought Kevin Wheeler asked a really interesting question on the latest episode of the Best Podcast in Baseball. Would you sign up for Jordan Walker to have the hitting career that Jason Heyward had? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So I was listening to the best podcast in baseball the other day, Alex, and I thought Kevin Wheeler made a
report. The best podcast in baseball, Redbird Report?
No. Theirs is different. This is with Derek Gould, and he occasionally has Kevin Wheeler on, who I used to do a show with. I think he does fantastic work. He's one of my favorite Cardinals analysts out there. So Wheel said something during this podcast that I found to be really interesting. I want to play this for you, give you my reaction to it on the other side.
My worry, different players, but similar idea. My worry is that it's just Jason Heyward. Offensively. Like Jason Heyward was and to be clear, Jason Heyward has been a very good major league player for 15 years. But Jason Heyward was supposed to be a superstar. When he was young, you looked at him and you're like, that guy's an annual all-star. And he was 20, 21 years old, tearing it up. His rookie year, he was a 6-win player. And then basically he's just been a guy since he was 25, 26 years old. You know, this is a guy that has almost 200 career home runs. He's a league average hitter, though, for the entirety of his career. And he was viewed as, this guy is a superstar. He was a rookie. This guy was the next big thing. And Walker has that ability at the plate.
Okay, so he's comparing Walker to Jason Heyward. Do you remember, Alex, T-Bone, you might have been too young at this point in time, but do you remember Heyward as a rookie?
Yep, I remember looking at all of the Sports Illustrated stories that were popping up about this new phenom with the Atlanta Braves crushing baseballs that first year. Yeah, I rember everything about the hype.
Do you remember it at all?
I kind of remember him now, not to the extent of I would recall it today, because I remember he homered on his first at-bat in the big leagues, so no, not really.
He was unreal. This guy was a sensation. And it was oh my God, he's going to be their next 35 home run player. The lineage of the Braves positional players has now found its next guy in Jason Heyward. He's going to be the star of the league. And then it just never happened. He had a really good season here in St. Louis, But it was high average, high on base, fine slug, 15 home runs. And that's kind of what he became. A 15 home run type of a player. And that's after, in year one, as a rookie, producing 18 home runs and 30 doubles at 20 years old. That's absurd, man. Sound familiar? Jordan Walker, as a 21-year-old rookie, 19 doubles, 16 home runs in 117 games. And then for Heyward, there was a rubber band effect. Second year hit 225. Third year was a slightly above league average hitter. And then just kind of leveled out there. That was basically what he was until the injury started taking hold, and he just wasn't really the same guy into his late 20s. Here's my question for you. Because he did rebound. He ended up becoming a 5 to 10% above league average hitter for the next decade after that excellent rookie season. Alex, if I told you right now that Jordan Walker as a hitter could be what Jason Heyward was in his first 10 years of his career, Heyward was a 260 hitter, 415 slugging percentage. That's 3% above league average offensively. Would you sign up for that level of production? It locks in above average hitter. Or would you press your luck and hope for something more while also accepting there is real downside that it could never end up becoming that good?
Man, this is tough because I want to say lock it in because this is best case scenario. You were hoping the superstardom. You might not get that. Take the shot of just having a consistent guy who's going to be average for you. I think I would press the button, or I think I would take my chance, though, and see. Just because I think if you get Jason Heyward, and I'm not taking anything away, but you're always wanting more. You're always wanting more. And if you lock it in with Jordan Walker, I feel like you're still going to be wanting more, and you're going to get consistently frustrated with it. To whereas, you know what, press your luck, see if something pans out, and the guy does become the star you're hoping for.
I would lock it in now. Because though it would be disappointing compared to what his profile was when he was coming up and where he was drafted, this guy could help you win, right? A guy that's 4% above league average. Walker's not going to be defensively what Heyward was. I think he can be pretty good, though, defensively, and have a year or two where maybe he's in the Gold Glove conversation. That guy can help you win. Right now, my fear is if I decide to press my luck, based on what I'm seeing from Jordan Walker, look, he's had a small 10-game sample where it's looked better. My fear is it's not going to work. My fear is it's going to be a bust that ends up just kind of flaming out of baseball. So I would much rather lock in right now that I can get a guy that was 4% above league average, understanding that he doesn't end up living up to what his prospect hype was. That guy can help you win baseball games. So I would much rather sign up for that than take my chances.
We've had a number of people say something to the effect of, guys, Jason Heyward was hit in the face by a pitch, and that's when everything changed. I don't necessarily agree with that narrative. Jason Heyward was hit by that pitch in late 2013. The 3 seasons prior, and this is including 2013, he was, as a hitter at the plate, roughly league average. So he was already heading in this trajectory, and then it just continued in that trajectory. It's an easy thing to point to, but I don't necessarily believe that that is ultimately the case. So to answer the question directly, I'm pressing my luck. I would not sign up for this. And the reason why is because I just hope that he becomes something more. I think it would be really disappointing if he's nothing more than a league average hitter. I actually think that's kind of the worst case scenario for the Cardinals. Because if he's a league average hitter, you just keep putting him out there in right field every day, and you never try to upgrade over it, and you just lock yourself into league average production from right field. If he's bad, if Walker just becomes what he's been the last 2 seasons, you're going to upgrade there. You have to. Like, Donovan moves to the outfield, so JC takes second base, eventually JJ Weatherholt takes over there, whatever it ends up being. Or you sign somebody, or you trade for somebody. You upgrade that slot in your lineup. What ends up becoming a problem for the Cardinals is if they just lock themselves in to Jason Heyward level offensive production from right field when they don't have a superstar elsewhere in their lineup. You can work with this when Heyward is what he was with the Cubs, when they had superstars around him. You had Chris Bryant winning the MVP that season. You had Javi Baez putting together his best offensive seasons. Kyle Schwarber smoking the baseball left and right. Like, that team was loaded up and down the lineup. This team isn't that. They're good. I think they have a lot of productive major league hitters. They need Walker to still be some kind of 15 to 20% above league average offensively, or to stink. Those are kind of the 2 best outcomes for the Cardinals, honestly.
I don't know if they need that. I think the guy that's going to be the 20% above league average, I think it's just being replaced with somebody different. I think it's probably Ivan Herrera. I think Herrera's the guy that takes that role. I think it's okay.
Might. We don't know for sure.
If he doesn't, then they've got pieces that they need to move, and they may need to move guys that are league average. But I think right now, like, Walker's becoming a distressed asset at this point, to where his value is just going to keep going down if he continues to struggle.
I agree with that.
I am fearful that there's not much more to see from him in terms of, sure, maybe I press my luck, maybe he does get there. To me, it's too risky at this point. I would much rather say, hey, yeah, he's maybe a league average offensive player,
but what does that
he carries value.
What's the payoff?
For what it means, I ended up at least getting a guy that I can put in right field, to your point.
Sure, but what does that do for your team is what I'm asking.
I think for the Cardinals, like, I don't know if they're going to get back to having that middle of the order going out and getting those guys if they don't develop them internally. But they can do what they're doing now, which is win with 8 guys that end up being above average, right? That's what they're trying to do.
I think it limits your ceiling.
Maybe.
If you have Walker every day in right field with this kind of production and he doesn't carry the defense that Heyward brought with him, that was the value for Heyward, right? He was the best right field defender in Major League Baseball for 8 years. If he doesn't carry that with him, I don't know, man. I don't know that is somebody that you built around. I don't know that is somebody that you...
I don't know if you build around him, but to me, he's a complimentary piece that you're okay with having in your lineup.
Yeah, but I think BK makes a great point. Like, that's a complimentary piece that I feel like the Cardinals are still going to be focusing on being like the guy that's going to lead at some point, and they're never going to move away from that because you're just going to be saying, like, this is the guy, he's given us this, we're not going to stop using them.
They have complimentary pieces.
A lot of them.
They've got them. Like, you've got Thomas DeJacy, you've got Brendan Donovan, you've got more coming. I don't need another complimentary piece. I need guys that are 20% above league average offensively.
And I think the Cardinals just stick with this guy and never change.
I need guys that have an 800 OPS potential in right field. And if it's not going to be Walker, that is disappointing. And I hope like hell he gets there. I really do. That's part of why I'm pressing my luck, because I'm not as down on him as you are right now, T-Bone, because I do think that is still at least in there somewhere. I would not take this. And I did ask this on Twitter, by the way. Put out a poll yesterday and got a bunch of responses. Twitter.com/BK Sports Talk, about 700 responses. Would you sign up for Jordan Walker to become Jason Heyward of his first 10 years of his career, or would you press your luck? 66%, 2/3 of you said press your luck.
Wow.
You would not sign up for him to be Jason Heyward. And I think that's probably because of the hype, the disappointment, and only being a league average hitter. I do understand where you're coming from, T-Bone. I just personally, like, my philosophy on this is I would be hoping and expecting for something more.
And I think even if you don't view like having a league average offensive right fielder though he won't be Heyward defensively, I agree with it. I'm not even pushing back against that. I don't think he's a negative defensive asset.
I agree, but now you've just got an average defender and an average
and I think he'll be slightly above average defensively in right field as he gets older, but I digress. The reason I bring that up is that's still a piece that you can potentially trade too, right? Like that,
Sure.
Maybe he's not the superstar. Maybe you don't have that guy. He might be the guy that gets thrown in a package that you might be able to go out and get that guy that can help you. So like that's where I view it as, okay, so I'm getting a guy that's at least league average that is okay and can potentially help me win if he's here in the lineup. Or is the guy that potentially helped me go get that piece compared to if I press my luck? Sure, maybe he ends up becoming the guy that you're searching for. There's also the chance he just flames out and you end up trading him for Rawlings baseballs, and that's what you have to end up settling for.
He's T-Bone, that's Alex, I'm BK. Coming up next, do the Panthers and Oilers feel like they're head and shoulders above the rest of the league right now? We'll talk about it here on BK and Ferrario. Does it feel like the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers are head and shoulders ahead of the rest of the league? That's a question that Donnie Fandango presented to all of us leading into the show today. I'm sure you guys will explore this tomorrow, Alex, on the Last Minute Blues podcast. Whenever you guys record, people can find that at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. We'll be recording a new Redbird report coming up on Thursday as well. Alex, when you look at this, the Panthers have reached the Stanley Cup final each of the past 3 seasons now. This is their 3rd consecutive year participating in this event. Last year they won it. The year before that they lost. Edmonton has now reached it in back-to-back seasons. They also went to the conference final in 2022. So 3 of the past 4 seasons, they have at minimum reached the conference finals. They have the 2 best players in the world, I would argue, right now. Florida has the best defensive forward in the league right now, and they're probably the deepest team in the NHL currently, and they have a bunch of advantages with the market, the lack of a in-state tax, and they've got a bunch of guys that just really want to play for that team. How do you feel about this? Do you think those 2 teams feel as though they are head and shoulders above the rest of the league?
Right now it does, and I do agree with JR's premise of it feels that way because it's the Stanley Cup final and it's back-to-back seasons. So, of course, you're going to look at this and be like, man, nobody can stop these teams. I feel that way more of the Florida Panthers than I do of the Edmonton Oilers, but Edmonton's got 2 of the best players in the game in Draisaitl and McDavid, so it makes sense that they're there. But to me, man, this always feels that way with hockey, and at some point it dips, and then you start asking the question, can they get it back? Like Colorado, to me, is a perfect example. The year that they won the Stanley Cup, the year that they beat the Blues, they felt like they were opening a presence of every single year they're going to be in the Stanley Cup final, or at least competing in the Western Conference final. The following season, they lost in the first round of the Kraken. Then they lost to the Stars in back-to-back seasons. And Colorado was supposed to be this dominant team that was opening up a extended window. So right now it feels that way. I feel like Florida's going to be in this window maybe longer than what the Edmonton Oilers is. But I also know how this thing changes. And in a couple of years, it's going to feel dominant. And then 2 years from now, you could be asking the question, man, what happened to both of those teams?
It does feel different, though, right? I mean, Colorado made it once. They didn't get back.
Yeah.
Edmonton has made it multiple times. We've now seen Florida make it, not multiple times, 3 consecutive seasons. They have made it to this game. They have dominated the Eastern Conference. Now, we have seen this in either conference at any point in time. Like Tampa had this dominance for an extended runway. Chicago had this kind of dominance for an extended runway. It was a little different. It was a longer period of time, but Pittsburgh had a really long time where Sid was there. They had the stars, really good team, consistently getting deep into the playoffs, felt as though they were kind of at the top of their game. It's very rare that you see it with both sides of the league. This is more of an NBA thing than it is a NHL thing. You saw it for a while with Cavs, Warriors, Heat, Spurs, Lakers going up against whoever it was at any given time, right? Bulls against whoever it was at any given time. Is that what feels different? Does that feel different to you? Or do you think this is just the same? It's going to be a cycle and they're going to go right back down to the bottom.
No, I mean,
it
does feel different in that sense of you've got 2 teams in both conferences that I don't know anybody that's going to unseat them. Like in the Eastern Conference, go ahead and look at the next couple of years. Who's taking down the Florida Panthers? Because the Eastern Conference is kind of a disaster right now. It was always Boston and Toronto. Well, both teams are going to be in shambles after this season. The Western Conference, you can make an argument because there's just a lot of competitive teams, but Edmonton does have 2 of the best players. So you're right in that sense. It does feel different that you've got 2 teams every single season. It feels like are going to be there at the end. But I would lean, I'm more confident that the Florida Panthers are going to be fine, and this is probably what it's going to look like, mostly because of the competitiveness in that conference. It does feel like the West is a little bit more tight than what we give it credit for with Edmonton.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't feel like this is going to be something that we see for the next couple of years. I think it's, one, like you mentioned, the Panthers. The Panthers have serious questions going into the offseason, right? We're talking about signing their centerman in Sam Bennett. We're also have brought up Aaron Ekblad. Yeah, they've got significant things to try and figure out this offseason to where maybe they let both those guys go and say, well, we'll replace them by going out and doing all these different moves. We'll replace 2 guys by bringing in 4 guys. Well, I've seen how that works in St. Louis when you let a guy walk. You end up chasing your tail for a while. So I don't necessarily feel like they're in that spot. And same for the Oilers. For whatever reason, when I see these 2 teams, not until they got to probably the conference final did I say I felt like they were destined to get to the Cup. And maybe that's just me. I've not felt like they are, like you mentioned the NBA, right? With the Heat and like that Cavs team with LeBron and the Warriors when they had Steph and KD. Those teams, like you looked at them and said, yeah, they're going to get to the championship. I did not feel that way about these teams.
Is that because you felt like hockey has more inherent randomness and so you expected it to be different? Or is it because you truly looked at the rosters? And I'm not saying you felt one way or the other. I'm curious. You looked at the rosters and thought to yourself, they're not as good as they were. They're not going to be able to get there this year because they don't have the same formula. They don't have the same mix as they did a year ago.
I would say it's probably, I don't know if I'd say the rosters.
I was the former. I just thought hockey's random. We're getting into the Stanley Cup.
That's probably where I would say.
Somebody different is going to emerge.
And like, it's not like, I mean, for the most part, these teams have kind of coasted there. But these teams got pushed individually and around in the playoffs, right? I mean, I know Florida dominated 2 games against Toronto. They needed 7 games to beat Toronto. You look at Edmonton, I thought they were done falling behind 2-0 to the Kings and making a goaltending switch. Like, I just thought, okay, well, this is over. They're going to end up being knocked out of this. So they don't feel like those teams in the NBA, which was, okay, these teams are just destined to get there. There's no way they lose. I never felt that way. Sure. Part of that is the randomness. And then when you also talk, like, in the long term of, like, it's a little different because the Panthers have gotten here 3 years in a row. But, like, if we're talking about going on another run, including after this, and say, like, the next 6 years that are in this conversation, I don't think it does either because the salary cap is going to get in the way. And it's a hard cap, right? There's no way to go above it. You know, you can get away with it in the NBA. You can get away with it in baseball. Makes it a little easier to go on these significantly long-term runs.
I think it's like a 5-year run in hockey.
I think that's probably right.
That's about what you end up getting.
Yeah, to me, the runs always surround having a competent goaltender. Like, I always feel like if you have that, it's how you keep that sustainability. Pittsburgh had Fleury for the longest time. LA had Jonathan Quick for the longest time. That's where it feels like. And Florida is going to have to figure out what to do when Bobrovsky, because he's 37 after next year, and that's his last season. And then, I mean, Stuart Skinner, the guy's getting it done, but he's obviously a concern because he's been pulled multiple times in this playoff run.
Chicago's run was about 6 years. Tampa's lasted over about 7 years. So you're kind of in that like 5 to 7 year run. I think Florida could do that. My thing, though, was different this year. Tkachuk just wasn't healthy. And I didn't know what we could reasonably expect out of him this postseason. And to me, that was why I was not as high on Florida potentially getting back here. But Tkachuk is the difference maker for me. He's the one that makes this all possible. He took, if we're being honest, less money to go down there in Florida. Like, part of what made the Warriors possible, Steph took less. He took less than what was potentially available for him on a true max contract. And it allowed what ended up being basically a loophole when the cap spiked, similar to what we're seeing right now in the NHL, by the way. They were able to go get Kevin Durant, and that made them into the biggest super team that we've maybe ever seen in the history of the sport. Florida kind of feels like a super team right now. You shouldn't be able to have Barkov, Tkachuk, Reinhart, Verhaeghe, and Lundell all in the same lineup. Sam Bennett, add that into it. Like, that's ridiculous, dude. You traded for Seth Jones, who makes $7 million a year at this year's deadline, along with Ekblad. Like, it's just, it's crazy what they were able to do with their team, and they have an all-world goaltender behind them. So I do think this is a team. Somebody on the text line said, so are we basically just saying good teams are good? No, Florida's historic. With this run that they're on right now, could go down in this cap era of the NHL is one of the best that we've ever seen. Yeah. That's what I think we're watching right now, and I'm curious how we feel about the Edmonton side of things as well, because their team is basically, we've got 2 of the greatest in the world. We're trying to capitalize on this. What can we construct around them? That, to me, feels a little more like it'll fluctuate over time. What the Florida Panthers have built, dude, this is one of the best jobs I've seen by a GM in professional sports in a really long time.
And typically when you see these empires fall, talking about these teams with that long sustain, there's just a couple of questionable decisions that's made roster-wise. And the one thing I can say about Florida, man, they don't make questionable roster decisions. Like, if they move on from a guy, they move. Brandon Montour, people were talking about last offseason, like, you can't move on from this guy. He was effective in their playoff run. And they said, no, we're good, and we'll give it to Nico Mikkola and Gustav Forsling, and then we'll go trade for Seth Jones. They make consistently smart moves to fill voids when guys move on. The question's going to be, though, how do you do that when your goaltender or when a piece of your top 6 moves on?
It's also about ages, right? Like, you look at the players that they're building around right now. Can I read you their top 13 point producers, their age this season? Just real quick.
I think almost all of them are going to be under the age of 30.
29, 29, 27, 29, 28, 23, 28, 31, Evan Rodriguez, 22, 28, 26, 26, 28.
Yeah.
That is the entire list of players this season that scored at least 20 points for the Florida Panthers. There were 13 of them. One is over the age of 30. One. They've done an excellent job of building a core group of players, and it's not a coincidence that it's in that age range that Doug Armstrong has talked about. Like, hey, when you get into that like 25 to 30-year-old range, that's when you're at your peak performance. The Florida Panthers have a 13-player stretch of guys that are in that range right now. Some of them will age out soon, but you've probably got another 2 to 3 years of playing at this kind of a level for them. Barkov's 29 years old, dude. That his game is going to age incredibly well. Matthew Tkachuk is 27. They're still in their prime. I can't wait to see what we're witnessing. Not just for this season, but for years to come, to see where this Florida team is able to take this thing, man, and what they are ultimately able to achieve as a group. All right, coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get to the Rewind Bet It or Forget It coming up next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals back in action tonight as they start a 3-game set with the Kansas City Royals. 6:45 will be first pitch. Michael Lorenzen will be on the mound for KC. Andre Palante will get the start for St. Louis. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line for Bet It or Forget It. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are betting it or forgetting it here on 101 ESPN. All right, Alex, let's start out with this one. Nolan Gorman started a total of 10 games in the entire month of May. He is in the lineup today for the Cardinals. If you're doing the lineup game with the Fast Lane later today, I'm not going to give away the full lineup, but Nolan Gorman is in it going up against Lorenzen from the Royals, a right-handed starter. Alex, bet it or forget it. I was just listening to Ollie Marmol. He was on a different show today over on KMOX, Gas House Game, which he does weekly. Bet it or forget it. Nolan Gorman has at least 15 starts this month for the Cardinals. He said one of the things that he's looking to do is get more opportunities for Gorman. Better to forget it. At least 15 starts for Gorman this month.
I'm going to forget it. Mostly because of what Katie told us yesterday. Like, you kind of think Walker might be back by this weekend. And I don't see how he gets in the lineup. As much as you want to get him starts and get him reps, when Walker comes back, they obviously are going to try and keep that going. And Burleson's going to get a little bit of an extended run, so maybe he keeps consistency. I don't see where it comes if he doesn't heat up over these next few starts. So I'm going to say forget it.
I think I'm going to forget it as well. I don't know if he's going to get up to 15. It might be like 12, a little bit more than 10 because of the Walker injury. But when Walker comes back, I don't know where all this playing time is coming from. And look, I get it. They're going to have to give Arenado some time off. They might try and get a day for Brendan Donovan. But I still have a tough time figuring out how you get all the way up to 15 in this stretch.
15 feels like a lot. You have some days where Herrera's catching. It's probably like, let's call it once a week. So that's 4 or 5 spots, 4 to 5 opportunities to start at DH. Probably have like one a week where they want Nolan Arenado to get a day off of his feet, I would guess, because this is a month where you don't have many of those off days. So you're going to have to create those within the lineup, right? And we know that they will do that for Arenado. So let's 4 to 5 starts there for Arenado as well. Get a couple of starts at second base, probably. Donovan kicking out to the outfield potentially on these days. 15 feels like a lot, man. I'll say forget it. I will be interested to see if they truly do want to see more from Gorman, and that's really the one way I think this team increases its home run power. We'll see if they try to manufacture some of that in the month of June, but I'll say forget it. Alex?
Guys, better to forget it. The Blues do not hand a contract out this season for more than 3 years.
That's a good one.
Do not hand out a contract for more than 3 years. And it's not an extension.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
Does that include like acquiring a contract via trade where that player is under contract for more than 3 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, they will not hand a contract out.
Or trade for one. They'll not acquire one in any way.
Yeah.
I'll say... Oh, boy, this is a great one. 3 years is the perfect number.
3 years is that threshold, man.
I'll say bet it. I think this is correct. I think 3 years is the number. They go 3 or less. I don't think they end up getting any of Sam Bennett, John Tavares, Brock Nelson, and those are really the guys that I think would probably get more than 3 years potentially. So I'll say...
And some of the guys,
they do not get more than 3 years, and trade options as well. I think they don't go that route.
And some of the guys in the trades that we've brought up, like typically there are 1 or 2 year deals because then they're either RFA or UFAs.
I think I would bet it. I could see where they do 3 years on a deal. I could see where they end up going up to a 4-year deal just to maybe drive down the AAV. I know it's something that we've talked about. Like, you prefer not to do it, you
They've
might
done that
have
a lot,
to.
though. They did that with Shin. They did it with Saad. They did it with Letty. They've done that a lot.
Yeah, I could see where they do that again. So I would say bet it. I could see a path where they end up doing more years than what we might be expecting.
Yeah, I'm forgetting this one. I don't think they hand anything out more than 3 years. I think they're going to look at this as, hey, we just need something to bide us some time. Once we think Dvorsky's ready, gets us something for the now. So I'm going to forget this.
Well, mine was...
Or bet it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay, man.
Mine was kind of tied into yours, but bet it or forget it. The Blues will sign a free agent and trade for a player to add to their active roster this offseason.
I'm going to forget this one. I think they do one or the other.
I agree. That's
I
what
think there's only one position they're looking to upgrade in. I actually think they might get rid of more than what they bring in, if that makes any sense.
Sure, you just have Tucker take one of those spots on the defensive core, and then Kessel is your seventh defenseman.
And then you try and buy out. Maybe you buy out one of Joseph or Texier.
There's really no reason to do that, though.
Unless you're using that money to facilitate bringing in the player.
Yeah, but they don't necessarily need to. So, like roster spot wise, they don't have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes down to when they decide
to do that.
To put Krug on LTIR, because we talked about, do they wait till the season to do it, or do they do it in the offseason? Yeah. But I also think they're going to probably look at this and say, well, we don't know if you're a piece that helps us, where we've got younger guys that can do it. So,
what did you think?
See, I was leaning towards potentially bet it, because the reason I asked that question is you go out, you trade for or sign third-line center, and then if you want to add another right-handed shot defenseman, if it's a Brent Burns, or maybe you go big fish fishing over there, maybe you sign Trent Frederick and trade for a big-time defenseman maybe. So that's why I kind of bet it, because I think they could have an aggressive offseason.
I don't know. Maybe we get into this tomorrow. I don't know how aggressive they're wanting to upgrade over Falk. Like, I actually think they liked how Falk played last year with Broberg. I mean, they were actually one of their best defensive pairings last year, and now they've got Fowler. Really, what you're talking about upgrading over is what Tucker, Letty, and Suter did on that third pair.
Upgrade over Falk if you trade Falk.
That I agree with.
I don't know that they're going to be aggressive in trying to acquire a top four defenseman unless they need to go get that guy, because they were able to move the money from Falk off of the roster. Yeah. That'd be the way that I would.
And you're not moving. The only way you're getting Falk off the roster is you're actively looking to get rid of him. And I don't know if they're going to be doing that.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line. Some big news in the NBA that was just released. Shams tweeting out the New York Knicks are relieving Tom Thibodeau of his duties as the head coach for the team. Thibodeau led the Knicks to their first Eastern Conference Finals in 25 years, made the playoffs in 4 of his 5 years at the helm, and led the Knicks to consecutive 50-win seasons for the first time with the franchise since the 90s. He's since been fired.
So much for the whole, like, I think it was the GM. It was reported earlier, the GM and Jalen Brunson, they got the back of Thibodeau. So much for that.
Makes a lot of sense if you're the Knicks.
Probably an ownership decision.
Full philosophical differences.
Even if the GM and the star player say he should be back.
Well, typically these kind of things go over well.
Their owner is not exactly a guy that's known for making rational choices.
Well, maybe they're looking to upgrade on the coaching side. You know, they're going to go out there and find somebody who's better.
Knowing the Knicks are going to go...
There isn't. Like, do you want to win basketball games? Hire Tom Thibodeau.
That was the sarcasm. There's nothing out there.
Well, I was going to say they're going to do the total classic NHL move, which is, we're going to fire a coach who's a retread, and they're going to go out and they're going to hire Frank Vogel or something
where's
like
Doc
that.
Rivers at?
Oh, he's in Milwaukee.
Oh, okay.
Well, Giannis is on the verge of leaving.
Tom Thibodeau is like Bruce Cassidy. You want to win hockey games? Go hire Bruce Cassidy. You're not going to enjoy every second of watching or playing. I thought you were going to go with another style. Bruce. No, Boudreaux is like a solid coach, right? But you bring him in for a specific style. Tom Thibodeau is a grinder. Your guys are going to play every night. They're going to play big minutes. But it works. They won 51 games. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then they imploded. That is not Tom Thibodeau's fault that you have a center who plays like a shooting guard. It is not Tom Thibodeau's fault that some of the guys on the roster decided not to play defense any longer, and you couldn't hide them. He's a great defensive coach. It's 20 years of history to suggest this guy's excellent in that regard. But anyways, better to forget it just to do one related to this. The Knicks will live to regret this decision.
Bet it. Bill Barnwell just tweeted this out. Tom Thibodeau, 50-win seasons with the Knicks, 2 in 5 years. Every other Knicks coach in the 21st century, 2 in 21 years.
Yeah. My guess is they'll probably hire Michael Malone.
That's who I was thinking right away, because I just saw a meme of him like looking up with a smile.
Yeah,
and I like Malone.
What a dumb move.
I'll say forget it. I don't think they will live to regret it, because if you're hiring Malone, I think you're close to what you had in Thibodeau. So I'll say forget it. I don't think they will regret this move. I think it's kind of stupid and silly, but
Very stupid.
forget it.
All right, better to forget it from the 314. Better to forget it. Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen is the best rivalry currently going in football.
Oh, forget it.
I'd say that's like
Josh
third
Allen,
in the
Mahomes?
AFC.
Mahomes versus Allen is the best one
Mahomes,
going.
Burrow's probably better than
I agree.
Jackson. Mahomes, a part of these are the best ones.
Yeah.
Do you think Mahomes Burrow is better than Mahomes versus Lamar?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
Because
Really?
Burrow's made him bleed in the playoffs.
It's and the offense that the Cincinnati Bengals provide.
Yeah.
It's like Baltimore's offense, as much as we're talking Jackson, right now I'm talking Derrick Henry too.
Here's a question. Is Mahomes versus Hurts better than Mahomes versus Lamar at this point? Beat him in a Super Bowl, played against him, and played really well in another. It's different conferences, so it's a little different in that regard. It's almost more similar to like Brady versus Eli Manning instead of that Brady versus the Peyton side of things.
I still think it's probably, if you're going off of just excitement in terms of wanting to watch it like the rivalry style, I think I'd do Chiefs Eagles over Chiefs Ravens.
think?
Oh, really? I think I would go Chiefs Ravens because I think you see it more. I think the conference thing does matter, and it kind of hurts that rivalry.
I think this comes down to if Lamar is your cup of tea. I mean, for me, it's exciting watching him play, but I kind of also know what's going to happen. He's going to fumble the ball over. Something's going to happen the opposite direction, whereas these other guys, man, it's electricity every time they have the football.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN, and we will hit the rewind and preview.
Rewind.
Damn, man. I am always concerned about that. Always.
I had a teacher who couldn't pronounce his R's, and his name was Corey Crutch.
That's tough, man.
So, poor guy.
Way to out him.
Well, he knows it too.
Our rewind is coming up next, in which we will preview tonight's matchup between the Cardinals and the Royals here on BK and Ferrario. Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. If you missed anything from today's show, be sure to check out the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you can go to find it, and that is all presented by
Schaefer Door Company.
The 101 ESPN app, free to download, super easy to use, and that is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. You can always check us out on YouTube as well, youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. Tomorrow, Alex will be recording a new episode. I don't know what's happening to me. I apologize. It's only a 3-hour show, and I still am mush mouth. He is recording a new episode of the Last Minute Blues podcast, so you'll be able to find that over on YouTube, the 101 ESPN YouTube account tomorrow. All right, Cardinals back in action tonight, Alex. They're going up against my hometown Kansas City Royals. The Royals can't score. They stink. They are a terrible offense. It's basically, hey, can you get Bobby Witt Jr. out? Can you get Michael Garcia out? If yes, then you don't allow them to score. If no, then you might have a tough night. Tonight, something different will be in the lineup, though. It's Jack Caglione. He's 6'5", 250. He looks like Jordan Walker out there, honestly. But he hits the ball a mile. He's been an absolute monster so far in the minor leagues. They call him up. This is his debut tonight. Do you guys get excited about non-Cardinals debuts, like big-time prospects that debut elsewhere in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, big-time prospects, I do. Because I find it exciting to see what this guy has to offer and what people's reactions are once you see him for the first couple of times, because it's such instant reaction for people that they expect results right away. So, yeah, this kind of stuff gets me excited, even if they're not a part of Cardinals organization.
Boy, there are some I get excited about, like Caglione because of his profile gets me excited. But there are some guys that get called up that are top 100 prospects, and I look at them and I go, okay, so you project they're like a 270 hitter, and they're just going to be a good ball player.
Sure.
Like a Carlson, for example. And that's not to say I didn't get excited when Carlson got called up. He was a Cardinals prospect, so I was a little biased. But that kind of guy, no. Caglione's different. Paul Skeens is different. Most guys, though, I don't typically get that excited. Caglione's in that category of just a rare breed.
There are certain guys that have this kind of profile that are just different to me, and it gets me excited, right? Like this, the size is different, the power is different. When Ellie De La Cruz came up, I got excited about that, right? Like the speed.
O'Neal Cruz as well.
Yeah, there are certain guys that are just, you see it, and it feels different. Walker was that, honestly. He just looked different. Victor Scott II has some of those abilities as well. It's not the same as Jack Caglione, but there is Mason Wynn. The arm is just different, and you don't have to be a scout to be able to see that on the field and how it can impact a game. So I'm super excited to see what it looks like tonight. Palante versus Caglione. It's going to be a matchup that I'm really excited to see. Tomorrow, I will be down at the ballpark as a fan. I'm not covering the game. I'm just going down there to see it. And it's going to be Michaelis versus Caglione, and I cannot wait.
Wearing your Cardinal gear?
Yeah, I was saying you're going to be cheering for
Caglione. Be down there tomorrow. Royals versus the Cardinals. 6:45 starts each of the next 3 nights.
Going to be wearing that powder blue
series.
Oh, go to the
Royals
team
have been an excellent pitching staff, a really terrible offense. Should be another really impressive opportunity for this offense. We can find out a little bit more about them. They've been scuffling, I think is fair to say, lately. Have not been the same level of productive. The long ball's still not there. Need to start seeing this go in the right direction, though. Burleson going to get extended runway, potentially same thing for Gorman. What are you anticipating tonight, Alex?
I'm anticipating a Cardinals win, get back on the right track and pick this one up. I am actually excited to see a little bit more of a runway for Burleson now, and it seems odd to say, I'm curious with Gorman. There's a little bit of anticipation of dude, this might be your last chance, and now we're going to see what you're made of.
It's also, for me, the lack of power in this lineup. It does present an opportunity. He has the skill, theoretically at least, that the Cardinals are lacking right now.
This is the Wally Pipp situation in front of you right now. Your major league.
Can you imagine if Gorman starts going off and Walker returns?
Yeah, Walker doesn't
play.
What you do. Well, then Walker's waiting to play until Burleson falters or Gorman falters. But think about it. This is your opportunity. If you're Nolan Gorman, you have to imagine the threat of you going down to Memphis is real, which might really hurt your MLB career hopes. Dude, this is it. This is the last straw. This is the last straw you have to stay in the lineup. Take your shot.
Last straw.
Last shot, I meant to say, but I've had a rough day pronouncing words as well.
We're going to give it right back. T-Bone, what do you expect tonight? We'll get out of here after this.
I'm curious to see what Gorman looks like, right? Because they keep talking the same way they would talk about Walker, which is, hey, we're working on things in the cage. We like what we're seeing. It's just not happening yet. It's not coming into the big league games. Okay, they're saying all the right things. Are we actually going to start to see it? Because he does have that chance of potentially Wally Pipp, Jordan Walker, if he does get hot. And to your point, I still think he's got the best pure power in the organization.
I think the Cardinals end up winning this one tonight. I think they win it 4-1, and I think you see a big night out of Alec Burleson. I like your choice there, Alex.
7-2.
Wow.
Gorman hits a home run.
For T-Bone and Alex, I'm BK. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's coming up next.